All right. Welcome back to You Talk Sports. This is Greg Wells, your host and founder. I'm going to start opening up the Zoom room and letting our group in. I am excited for this game tonight. It is the Houston Cougars, who are ranked number 3 in the country, versus the Iowa State Cyclones, who are ranked number 10. So number 3 versus number 10 in this game here tonight. I'm excited to see these teams. I haven't seen a whole lot of college basketball yet. I really start turning my attention once football season ends. And if that's you, you're in the right place. If you want to join us on Zoom, we'd love to have you up here on Zoom. I'm going to put the link to the Zoom to join us. And also I want to put the link to the broadcast so that we can have those of you that are here on Zoom already join us. Let's see here. Tonight's game, again, it is Iowa State Cyclones versus the Houston Cougars. I love that we got some Houston people here today. I'm putting into the Zoom chat right now the link for the YouTube. If you're here on Zoom, please go over to YouTube and pull up the game in that browser and leave a comment in the chat so that we know you're here. And this game is set to tip off right now. It is on ESPN. Let me get my television remote here and get it on. The plan is you might be somewhere where for some reason you don't have access to the game, and we're going to have the game box score up here so that you can follow along. If you just want to chat about the game, you'll have the YouTube chat to do that. If you want to talk about the game and other sports topics, that's what we're going to be doing up here on Zoom. You're welcome to join us on Zoom. If for some reason you're not camera ready and you want to just chat in YouTube about the game, of course, we're going to have a community here for that. And our goal is to build a community that meets like this every night. And you may not be available every night to watch sports the way I am, and I do. But but just you knowing that we're here, knowing that you've always got a place you can come to watch the game. You never have to feel alone. You always have people to talk to. A game is so much more fun when you have people to talk to and share it with. And with March Madness right around the corner, we're going to be doing some fun stuff. We're going to have a brackets to fill out, a contest amongst people that are in our community. We'd love to have you be a part of our community. All right. So we're about to kick off this game here. And both these teams, if you're not familiar, I didn't even realize they're both now in the Big 12. And so if anybody can fill me in on kind of how that happened and what's been happening with that, because I know like next year the Pac-12 dissolves, but how did we even wind up here? I see David's got his Houston hat on. David, what has Houston's been here all year? What's like the update on the conference? How did Houston get in the conference?
Yeah, so Houston had been planning over these last few years to leave the AAC, so it's their first year in the Big 12. They're sitting at the top of the conference standings, but me personally, they don't look as good as they did last year. I know they're number 1 on Ken Palm, but they just haven't looked very well to me. They're probably the best defensive team on the planet right now. But Iowa State ran them out of the gym the last time they played. So the spread last I checked was actually 9.5 Iowa State. I would actually take the points.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, because I follow Houston in March Madness the last couple of years. They've had some great runs. They were always this team with a great record, but they never really played anybody all year. So people like me weren't giving them much clout, and I would always pick against them to get knocked out until last year I finally picked for them, and then they got knocked out. So it backfired on me. So it's cool to see they're now playing against some quality competition here. And so interesting that they are in the Big 12. Does anybody else have a take pregame on this before we tip this off?
I just feel like the college season is a March Madness season in its own, because there's so many teams like Houston that aren't ranked number 1 or ranked in the top 5 during the season, and they lose and get dropped down to the top 10 instead of the top 5. So I feel like there's no definitive team to really stand out and look out for right now. Houston's definitely one of them, but do I think they can make it to the Elite Eight, to the Final Four? As of right now, no, because you never know what you're going to get, especially in a tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting as the tournament has become such like it's all about the tournament and everyone gets in the tournament. To me, that's kind of diluted college basketball. That combined with like the one and done dilution of some of the talent to where I don't watch college basketball like I used to in the 80s and even in the 90s. Like it was actually my favorite sport because you knew players year after year. I hope that's kind of where things are going. We're in uncharted territories with the NIL and the transfer portal. We're going to talk about that tonight. But right now, let's start with just takes on this game that's about to tip off here. Go ahead, Jordan.
I just wanted to say my take because it's actually 3 a.m. over here in Europe, so I have to get ready for bed.
Where are you exactly in Europe?
I am in North Macedonia. I'm in a small town called Kripa Palanka.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that, but I wanted you to tell that everyone else that. Yeah, you're over there. Pro ball over there, right?
Athlete, so I play here in Europe and also in Australia and everywhere around the world overseas.
Big ups.
So cool. Yeah. Where did you play in before that in college?
I actually played Division II. So I played in Division II. I actually played up in like Assumption College.
Get out of here. You went to Assumption?
Fans. Huh?
You went to Assumption?
Yeah, I went to Assumption.
I went to Bentley.
Oh, yeah, we don't like y'all.
This is like a big division.
You know, we say the
this
Buck
is a big
Bentley.
Division II rivalry here. In fact, I think the Assumption head coach was our longtime assistant at Bentley, right? I don't know who you coached.
Yep. Like I would say one thing about it. Like every former player that ends up being a coach, they never coach for Assumption. They never want to be assistant coach at Assumption.
No, why? She's a tough coach, or?
Yeah, she's a tough coach. She's a tough coach, and like you have to go by her way or the highway. And that's one thing about her. She goes by her way, the highway.
What's her name? I forget. It's been so long.
Say that again.
Yeah, what's the name of the head coach at Assumption?
Carrie Fair.
Carrie Fair. Okay, yeah. If so,
it
was a big rivalry. What was that, Matt?
Sorry, what's the name of your team, Jordan?
The team in currently it's called it's KK Kriva Palanka, ZZ KK Kriva Palanka.
I played in Montenegro. I'm familiar with the area.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was with all the KKs. It's funny, but I played for Podgorica, Budućnost in Montenegro.
Okay, I only played like one team in Montenegro when I was playing in Serbia. I played one team in Montenegro.
Okay, it was probably Budućnost. Honestly, I think it's the only team. Oh no, maybe not. There's a couple teams, but cool, very cool. Sorry.
Yeah, fascinating people and stories we have here. We'll love to get into that tonight as we go. I know it's late where you are now, Jordan. Did you have anything else on this game you wanted to add, Jordan?
Yeah, I just wanted to say my take. I feel like one thing I would say Houston goes like through and through is their defense, and their defense has been like pretty much the only thing that has been keeping them in like the top 5 in the college basketball standings. But like I think their issue is always going to be their offense. They really don't know how to score, and I feel like this game is definitely going to be closer than people think it is. One thing about Houston this year, they haven't lost at their home, which they have a great home crowd, a great home advantage. But one thing about Iowa State, no matter they have a good team or they have a bad team or a so-so team, like nobody wants to play Iowa State because they are always a team that will like literally upset somebody. That's all I wanted to say.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we appreciate your take and your insights on that. And we know it's late at night. I'm glad you could join us again tonight. All right, Vincent.
No worries. See y'all tomorrow.
Wait, hold up, Jordan. Jordan, before you go, did you? I'm from a D2 college, Limestone. Did you ever play our girls basketball team?
Nah, we usually played a lot of girl. We usually played a lot of teams in the Northeast 10, so a lot of teams in Massachusetts, Connecticut, up in that area.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. D2. Yep.
Yep. Y'all have a good night. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
All right.
Um, my take, both teams, they're doing well. Both teams are undefeated at home, so I'm gonna write that. And also, got my Astros hat on. The H. I'm gonna go with the Cougs, but both teams are undefeated at home. So I think this one's gonna come down to Houston, and both teams on a road of 4-3. The last time they played, they both had a game lows in scoring. I think it was like 52 and 57 points. So I think Houston takes this one at home and evens the score between the two.
All right. Yeah, I mean the home field is going to be big, right? You said Houston's at home here. We just tipped off, by the way. We got the live scorecast here. And let's just check in over on YouTube. If everyone can make sure that you've added this in YouTube. And let me put the Zoom link here for people that are in YouTube and want to join us for the game discussion. And then let's put I pressed the wrong button.
Yeah, this game was sold out tonight. I'm actually a student at U of H currently, trying to finish up my degree, and had people hit me up trying to see if they can get a ticket.
Wow. That's do they sell out a lot?
Yeah, these last 5-6 years, it's been crazy seeing how I think before Samson got there, the last time we made the tournament was like 07, 08. So it was I used to, as a kid, I was able to just get into the game, just walk in and sit wherever I wanted because nobody cared. So these last few years, it's been incredible to see the turnaround that Samson and his family brought to the team.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I want to get into that later with you. What happened to Samson and he turned everything around there and how they've been able to like even go to another level since then with their current coach is not a household name and probably should be based on what they've done in March Madness. Let's just look in the chat here. Jackie Jenkins is back as well as this one says naughty, nay, and reckless. This is Yolanda. And let's see, also Blaze, and we've got a little bit from everyone here. Awesome in the YouTube chat. All right, let's continue with our pregame takes on this game. We'll go to Cameron and then Blaze and then Will.
Yeah, so Houston was my favorite pretty much, or honestly, UConn is my favorite, but Houston was my favorite to win the whole thing until that game against Kansas. They have a great defensive philosophy, they're trying to let the guards get their shots up, and yet against this defense, guards aren't getting their shots up. But that's the style they play with. They attack the ball. Well, as soon as you see a screen, you'll see them attack that screen and double team. They give them ball pressure. They blitz. But what I think why they'll win, they can go deep is they're a really good rebounding team. On top of deep, yeah, they're not known for their offense, but no one can score on these guys except Kansas. Kansas lit them up, and I think this game, their next game against Baylor, and then they have Kansas coming up again. These next 3 games are going to tell me a lot and how far I'm going to punch Houston into my bracket.
Wow, so Houston has Baylor and Kansas coming up after this. Now, it's like running the gauntlet, man. Nothing to prepare you for March Madness like that.
Baylor's not all that this year, though. We took care of business with them last time, but Kansas, that's going to be an interesting one because they were raining threes like crazy the other day against us.
Is the Big 12, David, or anyone who knows, is it still like you play everyone home and home, or is it like have divisions to it, or?
Yeah, I believe so. It's home and home.
You play everyone, all these teams home and home. And how many teams are in the Big 12 now that they added Houston? I don't know. Well, I guess we can look at the standings and see. All right, let's go to Will. What's your take on this game, Will? What are you looking for?
Yeah, it's definitely weird to see both these teams in the top 10 for sure. It's kind of unexpected, but Houston had 2 guys get drafted, so I don't know, David, if it was expected that they were going to be this good again, but they had one guy, I think Sasser went in like the top 10, and they had another guy that got drafted. So I guess they just have a really good team, you know? I don't know if they really have a star. I think the Shred guy is like one of their best players, but yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting hearing the take about how good Houston defends. Because I always thought of Sasser for his scoring, and then they had
Mhm.
like a one and done freshman last year, I think, too.
Darius
Uh,
Walker got drafted to Indiana.
yeah, he was a first round pick, I think, right? So they lost those two guys, and they were able to reload. Who's been their main guys so far?
It's been Jamal Shed and LJ Cryer transferred over from Baylor. And then down in the post, it's been Jawan Roberts, who I think he's a senior this year. That's been our core, as well as Emmanuel Sharp. He's a sophomore this year. He played a little bit last year, but everything runs through Shed. If Shed's on, then we're going to be on. But if not, then it's going to be a tough day offensively. Like everybody's hitting on the head. Our offense isn't all that, but defensively, we're nails.
Hmm. Yeah, the transfer portal, it is what it is. I feel like you shouldn't be able to transfer to another team in the conference, though. To me, there should be some boundaries between just, you know, making your opponent worse as you're making yourself better at the same time by, taking guys like that. I don't know. We can get more into that. Let's go to Blaze. What are you looking forward in this game, Blaze?
So first off, I'm excited, always excited when I see they match up teams that got the same record. I always love that. That's always a great thing for me. But when they were saying how, who was it that was saying Houston normally got the great defense? They better have that defense tonight because the last time they played, Iowa, they shot like 37%. They didn't shoot good. So I'm feeling like they're gonna want to create that mistake, and these boys gonna be lights out. So I'm happy to see. I'm looking forward to see if this defense really gonna be able to hold it down. They better step up all the way because Iowa coming today. So tonight is about to be something crazy.
Yeah, Iowa State, that's where Halliburton came from, right? Is he like the last great player to come out of there?
I think so.
I wonder if they have anybody like that who's up and coming. Matt, what are you looking for in this game?
I agree with them. I honestly, I think both of these teams could be out of the top 10 in a week and a half. Who knows? I don't know if they're. I think Houston's always. I think they're going to make a potential run, but I think like basically what David said. I think their offense is always kind of whack. Iowa State sneaky. I think again. I don't think in college basketball in general. I don't think either of these teams they could win it all or they could lose first round personally. Nothing's really impressing me with either of these teams so far from what I've seen. I think Houston smacks them tonight, personally. And I think Kelvin Sampson, is pre-NIL. Was he cheating? I'm like, he just seemed like everywhere he went, he always brought in the dudes, but mostly, he is that guy. He's one of those guys that's probably paying his dudes off. That's how he always has a solid team. How much coaching does he really do, honestly? You just want to go play for Kelvin because it's Kelvin. He seems like he's got the most cush career any coach I can think of. Just always has good assistants around him, probably paying guys off and crushing it.
Well, let's look up Kelvin Sampson here and just kind of get the take on him. Does anybody know the story of kind of how he got run out of Indiana right before he came to Houston? Isn't that where
Got ran out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I was at OU for a while, and then he was with the Timberwolves. He's like the third assistant, just collecting checks, and then he got the gig at I don't know.
Well, he was at Oklahoma, right? And then he was at Indiana after that. We're looking at his coaching career here.
I also want to point out because Matt said that he was saying that how much coaching does he want to do because people want to come play for him, which is true. But it's the opposite of Doc Rivers. People want to play for Doc Rivers, but he doesn't. He doesn't do any coaching. So I just want to point that out.
I don't think Kelvin's coaching much either, honestly.
So, he's been at Houston 10 years now. That's a long time. I hadn't realized that. I got a respect for that, that it because they weren't in a big conference before this, and he stayed there and is, invested in building the program.
But even then, they're like Purdue in the Big Ten. they always do good in the regular season and then they choke in the tournament. Like I said earlier, I don't see them making it as far as the Elite Eight.
Define choke. I'm curious. Define choke
Say it
because
louder for the people.
Because
in
you're
the
always
back.
expected to go farther than you actually do.
They made the Final
so
Four.
last year, I agree 100%. We absolutely choked. But the years before that, Final Four, Elite Eight, yeah, I think we hit the Elite Eight
In the Elite Eight, you were expected to go to the Final Four.
You lose to Villanova. I mean, come on. You lose to Villanova. You lose to Kentucky. You lose to.
And they weren't even in the Big 12 at that point. They're essentially a mid-major, right? I think if you're not in a major conference, getting to the Sweet 16 is an achievement.
Yeah,
but they've had some great regular seasons because they weren't playing anybody.
Unless you're Gonzaga.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Zag's always, I mean, I think what have they been the Elite Eight for the last 5? I don't know. They're just always winning games. It sucks winning so many games, though. Honestly, I hate it.
Yeah, Gonzaga's a small conference team, but they're really a big dog.
Now they are. They're definitely a big dog. They are. These might be 2 of the most boring offensive teams imaginable. Oh my God, Houston and Iowa State.
Matt, you probably can go out there and give them some buckets right now.
Well, that was a nice throwdown right there by Houston. I don't think of Houston as not offensive. We'll see how this goes, I guess. The crowd looks rocking. Definitely a cool to have a sellout. It's funny, I was watching a game over the weekend, the school in Tampa's USF, and they beat FAU, and USF was on national TV and had a sellout for the first time in like 20 years. They hadn't sold out a game, and their arena is only 10,000. So it's a cool environment when you're selling out like this. Makes a big difference.
Good this year, right? FAU's pretty good.
Yeah, it was a marquee win for USF. USF is surprisingly good this year. They just haven't played anybody though. That was their first good win. They almost blew a 25-point lead. All right, so Houston. So let's talk about Iowa State a little bit here. Who was Iowa State as a new coach? That's what I was referring to in my opening, right? They have it used to be Hoiberg, right? And now who's coaching Iowa State? Iowa State basketball. Here we go.
Like benches a lot.
I think they're a surprise just being in the top 10, right? This is obviously the history of them. Let's stay on the game cast here for the crowd.
Do you see any of your friends, Javen?
What now?
Do you see any of your friends in this?
In the crowd?
Oh, no, I'm too old for that. No, I take all my classes online here at home.
Yeah, so TJ Otzenberger is their coach. And let's see, where did he come from? He was at UNLV before this, South Dakota State before that. And he's a Wisconsin alum.
I took Houston minus 8.5. What about David? Did you? Well, you don't bet your home team.
Well, no. If I were to bet on this game, I would take Iowa State. Last I saw, the spread was 9.5 Houston.
Oh, I took 8.
And the score was, I think they beat us by 5, but we looked a lot worse than what the final score was of the last game.
I took the 8.5. I thought at home, Iowa State's offense. Yeah, Houston's
Talk
deep.
to me in basketball, man, about how much of a difference is basketball the sport where like being at home makes the biggest difference, you think, compared to like other sports like football or like swimming or baseball or anything? You think basketball makes the biggest difference?
I think home field advantage is huge in both basketball and football.
I do too. I know certain home court advantages are probably obvious. I mean, that's a dumb comment, but if you're playing at Alabama, you're playing at LSU, I imagine that home field is going to be amazing. Same as like a Duke or even Gonzaga. It's pretty, their levels, I think.
I feel like it's
Looks
very
like
different. It's a different type of home field
You
advantage.
got the weather.
You got weather that you're used to. You got just like a cumulative noise effect in football. And then, when you're on offense, visiting teams on offense, that cumulative noise can cause you to not hear the play calls. Basketball is a different, but I feel equal home field advantage where you could hear one player yelling, one fan yelling, like you could hear every word anyone says in an arena.
Yeah, it depends because that's where I will give Boston crowds. Like Boston crowds don't play no games. These are the most disrespectful. They will throw you off your game. I'll give y'all that. There's nobody that's that you, and then I will say Philly after you when it comes to basketball fans.
It should be interesting for Iowa State too, because besides this game tonight against Houston, they actually do have 2 more home games on their schedule against ranked opponents. BYU on March 6th, and they have Oklahoma on February 28th. They're both ranked in the top 25. That could be something that they could get out of the rankings completely if they lose those 2 games and lose by Houston heavily tonight.
Yeah, good point. BYU, are they are they in the Big 12 now?
Yeah. They left the WCC.
Yes.
These
Yeah.
rankings are
They lost to
confusing.
Oklahoma State this weekend.
So they must be in the Big 12 if they're playing Oklahoma.
BYU is number 19 right now, so
These rankings are confusing for me, man. Because like I look at these games and so often the unranked team is like favored. I don't know if that's the case for football, but for basketball, it's super random how a lot of times the unranked team is actually favored over the ranked team, even like later on in the season. It's super interesting to me.
Yeah,
Like-
well, that could be home field advantage or just about who's hot. In basketball, a lot of it is who's hot. My own camera got off there.
The difference between that and football is I think the ultimate team sport versus basketball. It takes us one guy to get hot or one guy to have a bad game. Like, I mean, you saw Ohio State beat Purdue. Now everybody's saying that Painter should get fired. I think he'll be there till the day he dies. But there's one person having one hot game or one coach making his debut and the players wanted to play for him. You never know, but that's not going to happen. You're never going to see Alabama lose to Georgia State. It might be they might only lose by 30, but it'll never be that close.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on which sport is more of a team sport. You're saying, David, football you think is right, is more of a team sport?
Yeah, because if the offensive line doesn't block, the receivers don't catch, the running back has butterfingers, the defense can't tackle, you're not going to win. Versus, you can have one player, you can have your point guard or shooting guard, whomever, drag you all the way to an overtime victory if they have to. But yeah, one player can. We see it every year with LeBron. He took his team to the finals 9 times. Granted, he had help a lot of those times. But you see him drag his teams even to the Western Conference Finals last year.
Yeah,
Jimmy Butler is the best example of that. Jimmy
Butler. That's another great point.
Players hit it on the head.
Well, let me try to be a devil's advocate on that then. Because to me, football, if you look at who's winning championships in football, it's a team with a star quarterback. And if you look at who's winning championships in basketball, it's not always LeBron who's the best player, right? So from that perspective, I feel like I could make the case that football is really a sport where the quarterback strongly influences things and thus less of a team sport. It's like in baseball, you're not going to win a championship if you don't have any good pitchers. In football, you're not going to win a championship if you don't have a Hall of Fame quarterback. Whereas in basketball, if I was to look at sports where the champions have been the better team or the better superstar, Basketball to me is maybe 60-40. 60% of the time, I think the star wins, like Kobe wins. But there's like a decent amount of times when the Celtics big three beat Kobe. He was better than any of our players, right? The team beat the star in basketball.
What was it before Brady? Was there like was it always, yeah. Like
yeah, Aikman won 3 in a row. The 49ers won 5. It's always been but some of those guys those are also great teams.
So yeah, they're all team sports. You need to have good players and a team coming together. But you can have in basketball, you're more likely to have one guy drag your team to the finish line versus in football. Yes, a great quarterback does a lot. I'm just saying one player makes more of an impact in where there's 5 guys versus 11 guys on the field.
Yeah, I think on the side of football, like the biggest argument would be like the quarterback's not even on the field at the end. Like at least in basketball, I can control my own destiny, right? Michael Jordan can come down and block a shot or guard your best player. Like, you really are in control. Whereas like when they're on defense, Tom Brady and Mahomes are not even out there. So they have to trust their team to play the other side of the ball for them.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. With my son, he plays all sports, and when he was playing football, a lot of scouts and stuff were coming to see him, but the team was completely horrible, and they were always asking, why is the scouts coming to watch them and the team never wins? And it was like, because they understand that he is going as far as the quarterback is going. Anytime he touches the ball, he's jumping over players, he's getting in, but their quarterback, the rest of the team make you question if they even watch football, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, it's like in basketball, I love that you can control your own destiny. If this person is killing them down low, all right, your best player can come and guard that player, or someone that's versatile with that skill can guard that player.
Yeah.
I think
most of you guys would agree that you think football is more of the team sport than basketball then? Or what do you think, Matt?
I think you can hide. I mean, granted, I didn't play football at a high level, but I think you can hide a weak spot in football a little easier than you can hide one of your 5 guys on the floor in basketball. I think it's a little bit easier to, if the guy's struggling defensively, they can attack him. If a guy's not making a shot, you just leave him open. Like you can do things strategically that really hurt you a lot more in basketball than I think in football. Granted, I, again, didn't play at a high level. I'm not sure, but thinking even like O-line or whatever the case may be, you can usually get them some support, or guys not catching the ball, you don't throw to him. You run it. You do something else. It's not like that in basketball.
Greg, I would
check in on the
say
game here. I'll come back to you in 1 sec, Yolanda. Sorry. I want to make sure we're serving our audience on YouTube that's watching this game. Houston's off to a 14-4 lead. I would love it if everyone in Zoom could keep one eye on the game and give us your take on it at halftime here. But yeah, let's continue with this conversation. Yolanda, what do you think? What's more of a team sport, football or basketball, if you had to pick?
if you really had to pick, I would say football has to be more of a team sport because you rely on everybody on that field to bring out your strengths and hide your weaknesses. Whereas in basketball, like for instance, if you take a look, basketball can easily go from a team sport to one-on-one ball, depending on who's on the court, depending on what player it is. And then you can take somebody like LeBron James, who can guard every position on the court, but then you can take someone else and he can only guard his peer. So then you have that weakness as well. So I do think when you're looking at basketball, because you can see when they're playing as a team, and then when it starts going to that one-on-one, that ball hog, it's one-on-one. I'm taking everybody. Like Ja Morant, I love Ja Morant, but sometimes he can get into that one-on-one ball.
Yeah, I can see that. It is a lot of one-on-one sometimes, especially in the NBA. All right, we got Houston back at the line here. They're up 15-4. Yeah, Iowa State is having trouble scoring or even getting off a good shot so far. This Houston D has been pretty locked down at home. Rain, what do you think? Which sport is more of a team sport, football or basketball?
I mean, definitely football. You know, you got 11 guys out there, so you got to, you tend to, uh, want your guys to give you more support with 11 than five. Like everybody chimed in, when it's five, one person can dominate the game. He can change that game. The closest thing in football to, a one-on-one type person, if you got a receiver that's just unstoppable and you can just attack that area, kind of like a mismatch in basketball. So football is definitely more of a team sport. Basketball, like you say, one person can dominate a game, one person can control a game or just set the tempo. So football, you're looking for your teammates more.
Yeah, interesting. Let's go over to the chat. We here, let me see if I can get Zoom to go over here, just check in, because we had someone, Alvin was saying, yeah, basketball is the ultimate team sport. The NBA is different. We had some different takes here in the chat.
I want to say basketball, man, but you look at what like CJ Stroud did for the Texans, he changed that one dude, changed the whole team basically. So it kind of makes you wonder a little bit.
But I disagree with that though.
Yeah.
He can't block it, he can't catch it, and he can't run it.
I disagree. I think the head coach did a lot with changing that team.
The head coach,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You do need that dude at QB in the sport of football.
I think the Texans added a lot of assets too. I mean, they have Noah Brown, Schultz is their tight end, Collins. I mean, I think they added a lot of key offensive pieces. I don't think it was just CJ Stroud. He definitely was a big part of it why they made the playoffs, but it definitely wasn't just him.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a football team where they got one player. It's hard to think of, and they just got so much better.
There's been some football teams that won Super Bowls without elite quarterbacks. Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson. So
a few, but a lot less in the NBA. More teams have won in the NBA by far. I feel like in the NFL, it's usually Mahomes or Brady or a dominant quarterback. All right, finally, Iowa State's going to the line here. 17-6 now. Houston's been killing them at free throws. I'll try to twist the question around to see if we can get a different perspective on this. So let's say, like, I love football and basketball, right? And let's say I'm trying to choose which one should I coach kids in. Where can I, as a coach, building a team, have the most effect? By far, I would choose basketball, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for me to coach 5 kids and get them on the same page, being a good team, than it is for me to coach 11 or 22 kids to get on the same team, right? I can get my unit of 5 working as a team a lot better than I could in football. What do you guys think? Which one, if you were going to coach one, which one do you think you could have more impact as a coach? And doesn't that kind of prove that you can have which one's more of a team? What do you think? Jared's got his hand up. We'll go to Jared with his hand up.
No, I agree, Greg. I think basketball is the easier one to coach. And I feel like I'm a wrestling coach myself. And I had, for instance, 9 kids on the team this year. And I think when you have a smaller numbers in this instance, it's easier to have the players work together, build that team bond, that team chemistry, and really making them excel at the sport and really grow and learn about the sport itself, how, like, being committed, being dedicated to the sport. How am I going to get better? How am I going to apply to this mindset of getting better, being great at the sport outside of the sport, like in the class, like as a student athlete in the classroom, other things in life. So I think it's you definitely leave more of an impact on the life of kids in college for a basketball team.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and then does that make it the more of a team sport then? Matt, love to get your take.
Yeah, I agree with you, Greg. I think in football, at least, again, I'd like to know what level of coaching you're talking about. I coached my niece's kindergarten team this year, women's basketball. It was the hardest, worst thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, it was a hypothetical.
Yeah.
I
don't think
referee, I
had
don't coach.
any of them. But yeah, football, I feel like it's very compartmentalized. The receivers hang with the receivers, running backs, at least in terms of what they're kind of in terms of coaching. I'm coaching the running backs. I'm coaching, definitely at the, the basketball level. I think you are making more of an impact on every player. So yeah, I do think I stand by, I think it's more of a team sport. Again, I get the amount of guys on the team. Mahomes isn't even on the field when the D's on there, et cetera. But I do think in terms of a team, you're just out there with your 5 guys. You got to play D and O. I just think it's more of a team sport.
Got it. Yolanda.
Greg, I don't know. I can say yes and no on that. I do believe it's a smaller group of individuals. So will they necessarily buy into what you're coaching or what you're trying to bring to the table? Not necessarily. I don't know. Sometimes I look at basketball and I equivalate it. I don't know if you're familiar with the singing group New Edition. They had Bobby Brown, and like some of these basketball teams have a lot of Bobby Browns, but not a lot of Ronnie DeVos and Michael Bivins. So you still have that one player that's the superstar, or in their mind, they believe they're the superstar, and they can take this team on their heels and carry them to wherever it may be. But in terms of coaching overall, I think you have a better chance of getting your point across to a smaller group. But does it necessarily resonate and make it a team game? I wouldn't necessarily say it would.
Yeah. Good points. What about you, Will?
I think you got to think about the amount of coaches too. So like basketball has 1, and then football. Well, basketball, I don't know. How many coaches does basketball usually have?
Well, most sports have a head coach and then have assistant coaches. Based on what level they're at, they might have more assistant coaches.
Yeah, so for football, you have a lot. You have a receiver coach, an O-line coach, a D-line coach, a defensive back coach, a special team coach. So, yeah, I've always kind of wondered what the role of a head coach really is. If the offensive coordinator is calling the plays and the defensive coordinator is calling the plays, like head coach's role is just kind of interesting, man. And it varies a lot, I think.
Yeah, Alvin makes a good point in the chat that it kind of depends what level you're at. In the NFL, I kind of picture the head coach is like the CEO. Like they have an offensive and defensive coordinator, and they are kind of letting each group coach itself. Whereas the head coach at those levels, in college, it's all about the head coach, right? It's their program.
Shanahan calls his own plays. Andy Reid calls his own plays. There's a lot of head coaches that got real big influences in the NFL. They just have other supervisors around them. But a lot of the head coaches are really chiming in on what plays are being called weekly.
Yeah. Jackie says in the chat, agreed. Basketball has like 2 to 4 coaches for 12 to 15 player, and football is a coach per position. Yeah, I think when you get to the NBA, every player has a coach, which is more, than every player doesn't have a coach in the NFL. Yes, the NFL coaches are more like store managers. That's pretty funny. What about you, Vincent?
I think from having just a little bit of a perspective, especially on the football side, I think it really depends on, the organization or level you're on, but the head coaches do carry a lot of weight. Starting with, you get a lot of position coaches because you like to have your checks and your balances, but a lot of head coaches like to call plays and they like for the assistant coaches to relay to make sure everybody's on the same page. And that goes from special teams to defense to offense to kind of correlate and put a whole game together. And for basketball, I think if you're talking about personally, if I had to choose one, I'm choosing basketball because it's a lot less players to deal with. It's I think it's easier to get your whole game plan in order, especially when you have 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 players where all their skills, all their weaknesses, front to back. I think that's easier, but I think the greater impact is on football where you have 50 men and you got to know all 50 men and you got to trust that Patrick's going to do what he needs to do. so that Nick Bolton on the other side can do what they do. And I think having that type of bond on the field is amazing, because you do have to sit there and have to rely on another man, and then saying the ball or the decisions all rolling to me.
Yeah, yeah, good points on the differences there. They're just showing on the screen here some famous Houston alumni at the game. Was Quentin Grimes, the NBA player, and what was the other one? Ed Oliver. Did he go to Houston? He's Buffalo Bills.
CJ Stroud's at the game too.
CJ
Yeah,
Stroud,
Ed Oliver
yeah.
went to school right up the street from me. He went to Westville High School.
Oh, Stroud is like a local high school Houston
No,
kid.
Ed Oliver. No, Stroud's from California. Ed
Oh,
Oliver went to school over here in Spring.
yeah, because Stroud went to Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
He's just there because he's supporting his hometown, which is great. Let's get the game cast back on here.
Surprised they didn't show Elijah on there. Elijah's at a lot of the games.
One of the biggest debates I have with friends, and Greg, if you want to, I can take it here. I always wondered, in what sport could a college team beat a pro team? None? You
Yeah,
guys don't think any college team could beat a pro team?
I think basketball will be that sport. Football, I don't think they're physically ready to compete. Or I don't think in football they can compete physically. Basketball would be that sport. If it was an upset, it would happen in basketball.
I think it would have to be.
Dream Team got ran up on by a bunch of college students in one of their practices.
yeah, but it was an
Key
all-star.
word
It was
though,
an
Cameron.
all-star
That was
college team.
practice. That wasn't a game.
I think let's take this. It's a good topic, Will. Let's rephrase it a little. Let's pick a college program that would have the best chance against a pro team.
Alabama.
Maybe you want to go Alabama against Carolina Panthers.
About 11 years ago, they had when the Jaguars really sucked and the Crimson Tide was really good. The Vegas put out the spread. It still would have been 13.5 Jacksonville. This was 11 years ago when they had Blake Bortles and the Crimson Tide were really coming on into their 2 back-to-back championships at that time. But another thing that we don't talk about when it comes to something like that is, when they're college kids, that's not their job. They're not getting paid to provide for their family for that.
They weren't back then. Now they are.
Definitely.
Good point. Good point.
Thank
I'm
you,
actually curious to
NIL.
hear Vincent and Matt's take on this, seeing as y'all play professionally and played in college.
And just so, what other teams though? So maybe Caitlin.
I'm thinking the
Clark's team,
Kentucky
right?
team.
Could the Iowa girls basketball team beat a WNBA team? Is Caitlin Clark that good?
No,
That's not
no.
happening.
Iowa girls got to win the NCAA tournament championship first before they can go to the WNBA.
So I would
No.
say the best
Get out of
team,
first round.
the best team would be that Kentucky team with like Anthony Davis and Kid Gilchrist and all those guys. That was one of the best basketball teams I've ever seen.
For me to believe it, I
What'd you
would have to see a full college team, every position, their players transfer to the league and be the best in the league. That's the only way I would be able to believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, they only have to beat the Detroit Pistons, right? They don't have to beat. We're not saying anybody's going to beat the NBA champs here, but like Detroit's pretty much like a mess. That's like a college all-star team that has nothing like organized or going well for them, right? If we think back through all the college teams of all time, who do we think might have the best chance at beating the Detroit Pistons?
I think the Kentucky team, man, they have like 4 or 5 guys that went round 1, but what do you think of that?
Villanova in 2016, I think, could beat the Pistons today. Even the Wizards. The Wizards are terrible too.
The team we lost to my junior year was the best college team I ever played. I think they won the national championship by like 35. Their starting 5 was Ty Lawson, Wayne Ellington, Ed Davis,
North
Ty
Kakalaki.
They had about seven
NBA guys.
And it's like, I think, and they're all juniors and seniors. So I think, again, if you go back and look at a team, they could definitely beat Detroit or Portland or some of these teams that are just awful this year, that are basically college teams. Half the guys probably are younger than college guys.
So a UNC team, right?
I think
And you know
I
what?
don't think amateurs could ever beat pros. If you put the
What
Pistons,
about hey,
the
how about
Pistons in the
I'm going
NCAA
back to my
bracket.
80s now. Back to my 80s now. We had Houston with Elijah Wan and Drexler. That's pretty good, right? I'll take a Hall of Famer against the Detroit Pistons.
You know, I will say,
What about Jordan, Worthy, and Perkins? That was a pretty good
Kenny Smith.
team. Kenny Smith was on that team, yeah.
Or you have to
Y'all
take
seeing
one of the Lou Alcindor teams with UCLA with Goodrich and all those guys, and you know, any team with Kareem had a chance to beat Detroit.
Yeah, any team with a Hall of Fame, like one or two Hall of Famers might beat Detroit right back in their college days.
I
So
like
the,
the
for the
throwback.
people who said no, what if you created like the perfect, like one of the best drafts? Like if you just had rookies that got drafted, could they beat the worst team in the league?
I think the thing is like, and the point I was trying to make earlier is these people literally from sun up to sundown, they're
Yeah.
practicing their shot, they're practicing how to throw the ball, whatever sport it is, they're practicing from sun up to sundown. This is all they do. Versus even when they're in college, yes, even if they're getting paid for it, they still have classes to do or or whatever else they have going on. But it's not living and breathing it 24/7. That's my belief. Again, Matt.
I will say, part of this argument, I think how times change has a big thing to do because y'all were talking about that team that had all seniors, juniors, and seniors. A lot of teams in college don't make it that far. So a lot of NBA teams do have a lot of younger players than said team. I think it was North Carolina who had seniors and juniors. So they might actually have a good opportunity versus one of these
Agreed, Vincent.
worst drop teams today.
Yeah, I agree. I think the way college is now, there aren't a lot of juniors, seniors. So, I mean, like I was saying, they're probably the same age or older, honestly, than some of these NBA teams. But David, to your point, playing professionally, I practice less. I feel like I spent less time on the court than I did in college, just because college, they run you ragged. You're going 4 or 5 hours at a time. They don't really care. It doesn't matter. You're doing.
They gotta get a look for you too. In the NBA, you're already in the NBA. Like you already have a look once you're in the NBA.
And you're working on things you need to work on. You're working on your jump shot. That's that. You're working on this. That's that. Like exactly. You already got there. You're working on what you need to work on. College, they'll just have you out there just to have you out there, and you're like, why are we still here? Again, I'm not saying it's not your job. I think your point is valid, but in terms of the time spent on the court, I spent way more on the court in college than I did at the pro level.
Well, that's why I turned to you because you're the one that's lived it. It's always interesting to hear having someone like you and Vince and Jordan on here earlier. I like hearing y'all's perspectives because y'all, like I said, y'all lived it and I didn't.
Yeah, we wouldn't, the typical fan wouldn't think of that, right? I would agree with what my perception would have been what David's saying. A pro works on this all day. A kid is like going to classes and parties and, like they're not working at it all day or all year round. So that is really interesting to hear that, Matt.
I can tell you, I'm sure none of you know about the wrestling world, the amateur wrestling world. I wrestled for 17 years. I wrestled in college. There are definitely high school wrestlers that can beat college wrestlers, and there are definitely college wrestlers who can beat professional wrestlers. Because once you graduate college, you wrestle all around in world events for Team USA. And there are definitely college wrestlers who can beat world traveling wrestlers as well. So the amount of growth you go from high school to international wrestling is just insane. And there are some high school kids that can beat international wrestlers too. Like that's how freakishly good some guys are. And wrestling is more of an individual sport than a team sport. But like it's just grown, like the amount of training that they do and the amount of skills that some people are able to acquire to beat people like 6-7 years older than them.
Yeah, it's interesting having a wrestler's perspective here. Why do you think wrestling, hasn't caught on the way NBA and NFL were? If I think back to like me going to high school in the 80s, like there was just as many kids that wrestled as played basketball. It was like, I didn't realize there was a difference in it until I kind of grew up, so to say.
Because of the WWE. That's why
Yeah.
people want to see the soap opera
Well,
and the story.
there's a lot of different things in my eyes, and you can believe it if you want, but wrestling is the hardest sport in the world. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. That's why the numbers are down, because it's a challenge. It's hard. You have to work hard, be committed. You have to be dedicated all season long, November through March, and then during the off season. Like, people don't like cutting weight. People don't like losing 10
Oh,
pounds.
cutting weight is insane. Like
I
as
cut
far as doing
my junior year of high school. I cut 20 pounds in 2 weeks. It's
yeah.
not fun, but do you think the average person is going to want to do that? No, the average person is going to want to play basketball or football, because don't get me wrong, you still have to work hard in those sports to be good at it, but there's not as much sacrifices you have to make compared to wrestling. You know, I wrestled with cauliflower ear. I got my ear drained, put stitches in my ear, and I wrestled the next day. So you're telling
Thinking
me
about from a fan perspective, why do you think it's like day and night from basketball and football to wrestling? It seems like, like
No exciting plays.
UFC is like grown up, and it could have been wrestling that is what UFC is, but they like missed the boat on that somehow.
Yeah, like you said, it's
Can't punch nobody in the face with
WWE.
wrestling.
I feel like high school wrestling and WWE don't even correlate.
no, they don't, and it's
And the thing with wrestling is a lot of the big time things are tournaments, right? And tournaments
Yeah.
only happen every once in a while.
and that's the thing. A lot of people don't like because you'll wake up at 6:30 in the morning for a tournament, and then you have to be there by the school for skin checks and weigh-ins at 8. You start wrestling at 9, and then you're there till like 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So no one likes to spend the whole day at a wrestling tournament, especially when you have to wait for your weight class to come up to wrestle. So that's part of the reason some people don't like wearing the singlet, which has never been an issue for me. They've changed it to t-shirt and shorts for some events. People still don't like wearing all that stuff. Obviously, like I said, cutting weight and like the hard workouts that come with it. Because when you cut weight, the energy level's down as well.
Yeah.
Well, the fan
Yeah,
base.
definitely it's a lot harder sport to play. Let's check back with our game here because Iowa State's cut it to 6, 2
Yeah.
minutes to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was like, they're making their comeback.
That's because of big
Houston
Eminem out there.
is not
Right.
Houston
Yeah.
is not a true offensive team, so they can always get other teams can always get back in the game against them.
Houston, that defense is smothering though.
Yeah, but they
Yeah,
haven't
looks like
scored
they're
a
playing a
bucket in
half-court
about 4
trap.
minutes.
Yeah.
They're playing like a zone trap now, and seems to be letting.
Yeah.
I like
I'm just curious, Vincent, going back to kind of what Matt and Jared were talking about when it came to practice. Did you feel like when you played for Bill O'Brien, I may add, did you feel like y'all practiced more than when y'all were in college?
Nah, absolutely not. In the NFL, it's all about taking care of your body. So you'll get those, out here in the Houston heat. We'll get out there about 9 a.m. We'll spend an hour and a half to it. I mean, the actual time that we spend running plays, it's so we have our individual, our warm up, our individual, our walkthroughs where we're going through plays, and then we'll have 6 periods of, I don't know, 8 plays where offense and defense will run their plays. So in a day, like they started 7:30 a.m. and we'll be done. At least in Bill O'Brien, we'll be done at 3, which was great. Other teams I've on, we finish at 5, 6. We practice for about an hour and a half. Other than that, I'll spend meetings, special teams, offensive team, receiver meetings. That's where you spend a lot of your time on in the film.
So college was more or less for you, Vincent.
I mean, like your body wise, yeah, it's more. Like what they put on your body is more.
Like practice time, yeah.
Practice time is kind of the same, but in college, you have about an hour, maybe 2 hours of meeting a day, then you practice for 2 hours. But when I started in college, we were practicing on Sunday, the day after the game, full pads, full go. Whereas there's like taboo in the league. Like you have 2 hard days of practicing, which is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday's a half day. We're done at noon. Saturday's a walkthrough. Sunday you play a game. So you really only practice hard 2 times a week in a league.
I feel like that supports what I was saying. Yeah, in terms of actual practice time, work, like getting hit, doing things, you were doing less in the NFL.
Yes,
But
yeah,
not time and like the film and all the other stuff. I'm talking about the actual on the field getting hit.
yeah,
But you're working
yeah.
on
Like,
like you said, recovery, whatever the case may be. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
like 2 hard days, Thursday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But in college, it's every day almost, except
Yeah.
Saturday, Friday.
Yeah.
You got a take in the chat here. It says Iowa State is now staying in front of Houston's backcourt, making them settle for long threes, leading to easy breakout threes and twos. Yeah, that's a
how you
good
beat
take.
'em.
Let's all try to have a take here as we're coming into the final minute and a half of the first half. As Houston ball here on the drive. Oh, they got fouled again. They've been living at the line. Iowa State just can't stop fouling. If
And
you're
they can't
supposed to be a defensive team, you got to not foul.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is more so that they can't they're not scoring, but I'm seeing a lot more defense from them and unified defense from them more than I'm seeing in the NBA. I got to be honest.
I mean, they've covered
Houston
up. They covered some ground at least. I mean, they were down by 8 before. Now they're only down by 6. So
Yeah, and that's only because Houston is having a hard time scoring. And I don't think it's more so the defense is they're missing open shots.
They're
Like
in
every
like
time
a
there's a man open in the corner.
well, it amazes me that they're in the bonus already.
they're in like a 1-2-2 zone almost. Like a weird formation.
Yeah, they're trapping out of the zone, Iowa State on D.
That's what they're doing. Okay.
All right, let's see if Iowa State can get a shot here.
This is my guy. I'd love to hear you guys' take on NBA defense in general.
Yeah.
It doesn't start till the playoffs.
Would a trap ever work in the
The
NBA?
last 2 minutes of the playoff game.
Or no?
I don't think so.
You don't think a trap would work?
They trap Luca every time he comes off the ball screen.
I always felt, even in high school balls, all I played, like if somebody pressed us, I was so happy. Like we were going to slay your press.
Okay.
You know, a good coach
Smart,
team
Rick.
can
Yeah,
can
you're
beat a
smart.
press anytime. I feel like.
Shaka Smart's made his name for that kind of stuff. He's like the sixth defender.
Yeah, well, Shaka has had a lot of success. All right, we got a timeout here. 28-24, is it now? I think this scorecast is a little behind.
2023. They just knocked down 3.
I think that was the first jump shot I've seen made this game.
Yeah, about time. That's their first one there for Snead, I think it
I
was.
don't even think Lipsy scored.
Curtis Jones. Well, so far, I'm not picking Iowa State in March Madness, that's for sure. They can't score at all.
Well, they're also playing the number 1 defense in the country. You got to take that into account.
Exactly, because this defense is smothering.
Yeah.
Yeah, statistically, this is one of the best defenses college basketball has seen in a long time.
Yeah, and earlier in the season, the final score was 53-57. So,
oof.
Yeah, State won, right? Yeah.
How do they rate defensive numbers in the college level? Is it just points scored, or how does that work?
It's like your steal percentage, your block percentage, and how many with the opposing field goal percentage is.
There was a year one of my teams, we were like top 5 defensively, and I swear we were terrible. I'm like, I don't know how we had this rating. I didn't know how the numbers worked, but we were.
You can make stats say anything you want.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
business.
our coaches kept saying that. I'm like, there's no way we're top 5 defensively. Like, we suck. Come on.
It's like me saying Derek White of the Celtics is number 1 in blocks among guards in the league.
Did anybody get a college basketball player who could like literally like single-handedly take their team through March? I felt like a guy like Hunter Dickerson could maybe do it, but
that Zach Edey guy is a beast, man. He's 7'4", almost 300 pounds. You know,
Yeah.
I'd like to see a big guy dominate the tournament. I haven't seen that in a while.
he gets benched in like critical moments, which is like super random.
Yeah, it's
shouldn't.
usually the guards in March Madness. The big guy can get frozen out at the end.
Cam, is there a team that you like in the tournament, like an underdog team, kind of be like an 8-9 seed that you think could make a run for it? What are you thinking?
Well, honestly, Iowa State, on this game right here, Iowa State's already beat Houston once, and they're within striking range in this game. They have guards who, well, they're not shooting particularly well this game, but in the history that I've seen Iowa State and Iowa in this tournament, they've had guards light it up from deep. So I think, or maybe one of these school like Hofstra. I think Hofstra is having a really good year this year. Watch out for them, or like one of these small teams that you've never heard of before, because those are a bunch of juniors and seniors who have real good team chemistry.
I don't think you mean Hofstra though. I think Patino just left Hofstra, right? Wasn't he coaching them and he went to St. John's? I don't know. I mean, Iowa State's ranked 10th in the nation, so they would be like a 3 seed right now, right? They're not exactly a low seed. It's so early to tell. It's funny, there's only 5 games left for each
So
team.
this
in
is
the
Iowa
college
State's
basketball
lowest
season.
scoring half the season, 24.
Yeah, halftime 28-23.
One of the surprise teams anyone is talking about is Dayton. I think they're like top 15, top 10-ish. And like that's not very common. So they might have a chance. They have a few really good guys. So they got a chance, I think.
Where are they in the Big East or where are they these days?
They're in the A10.
The A10? That's not a good sign.
One year with that Knicks guy during COVID, they could have won the whole thing.
Oh, Topin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was their best team. I mean, they might have had a chance at winning it all. So here's the rankings right now. I don't know.
They're 16.
I've not been impressed with Duke this year, and I like Duke usually, but
Yeah, I'm waiting for Miami to spank them tomorrow or Wednesday.
yeah,
Spank 'em
I
on
like
Wednesday.
UNC better than Duke. If I'm kind of an ACC guy. Arizona, I never pick. Purdue, I'm not picking the big guy. UConn, nobody ever repeats.
Do they have the same team basically, or is it pretty different?
Nobody ever repeats, but Florida did it, 15 years ago? So
That was a long time, and they had everyone back. UConn lost at least 2 guys to the NBA.
Hawkins,
But I think this UConn team is better than the team they had last year, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just
They
so
were
hard to
close.
repeat. I mean, the year before, UConn had a good team, and they got knocked out in the first round. So it's just
I like Marquette, Arizona, Creighton.
yeah.
Marquette's gonna be
I like
hard.
Marquette, but they just got destroyed by UConn.
I know.
They have a rematch coming up next week.
I like Marquette.
I like Marquette. They have a good point guard.
Like St. Mary's. Let's go.
Yeah, I like St. Mary's too. St. Mary's.
Rocca, let's go.
Team.
What's Kentucky? Does Kentucky still have a bunch of 5-stars?
Colorado State has a really good player too.
I know. I went to a game recently. It was fun. My dad played there. It was
Yeah, Kentucky's all one and done.
Yep.
Guys. So that's our top 25. Yeah, we'll start to get more into this. It'll be cool to help each other research the teams and have a bracket just for us on the show for all of us to play against.
Do you guys think he's the bust?
I read there's a formula, or I read, but no, there's to decide like who's going to be in the championship game. They say it's typically, if you look at week 6, the top 12 teams. If you look at the conference tournaments, the teams that advance to the semifinals, and then if you do the average of like 11.6, 11.8 of the final 4, you can figure out who's gonna be in the championship game. Something that somebody posted about a year ago. I saw it on YouTube. I said I'm going to save that so I can make my March Madness predictions based off of that.
Will you send that algorithm out?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I look at conference tournaments. Whoever gets hot in the conference tournament generally rolls. That's why I was riding with Texas last year. I still think they could have won it all. They blew that game at the end last year. I think they could have beat UConn.
Do you guys think John Calipari's a bust? I've been hearing that more and more. Dude hasn't done a lot. He's won. Did he only win? Has he only won one time?
Did you see the All-Star game
with
by
Kentucky.
chance?
No.
They
Did
had
they talk about
9
that?
Kentucky players out there. And I think they had like 9 Kentucky guys in the All-Star game the other night. We were
Do
talking
you think
about
that makes him like, does that make him a bust, you think?
I don't. I think
No.
I think they win games, but he's also producing pros. So I
Mhm.
guess it goes both ways.
He's a great recruiter.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
he
just
likes-
posted that video in the chat for you, Matt,
Thank you.
in the YouTube chat.
There's a lot of division and numbers that I couldn't keep up with.
I think.
Yeah,
I
I
think
wouldn't
say
call
if
him a
you-
bust. I would say that now the competition, and especially now with the transfer portal, it's evened out in a way where you have all of these different players now can pick and choose where they want to go. Back in his day, I mean, Calipari would go in there and sit on the couch and would get the best of the best players and would only promise them 1 year. I'm sending you to the NBA. So if his goal was to get them his 1 year in college and get them to the NBA, which accounts for, like was said earlier, the NBA All-Star game, then he's not a bust. He did what he was set out to do.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, you have to look at what was his intentions. Is it to win championships or was it to go to the NBA?
Mhm. I think it's got to be championships. You're
Not
college
necessarily.
basketball coach.
You know, a lot of these kids are looking for that 1 year to get to the NBA, you know, financial wise, to take care of their moms, to help out family and things. They're not necessarily looking at a championship. They're looking at who is the best coach that will get me to the NBA.
But as like a fan and stuff, right?
Well,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Like you want to see them win.
Right. I agree. As a fan's point of view, yes.
I
Yeah,
agree.
I think you can make the argument that Calipari's underachieved, you know, for his career at Kentucky, considering all the talent he's had, that he could have had more Final Fours or more championships. But I think that's just how hard it is in college.
Yeah.
Like March Madness is like running the gauntlet, one and done. There's no 7-game series, you know, like any one shot can bounce the wrong way and it can change anything, right? That'd be my kind of take on Calipari.
It's hard. Like the Gonzaga coach. Do people ever want to fire him or not really? 'Cause they
No.
don't really want. No? Okay.
Oh, he can get a DUI and still won't get fired.
He's
exactly right.
he's a legend, right? Because he built that program from nothing.
From nothing.
Dan
Pretty well.
Monson was the coach. They went their first run ever, and then it was like any other normal person would do. Took the big job at Minnesota, twice the money. He left. Next thing you know, Coach Few's, you know, legend. Like you said, it's gonna be the court's gonna be named after him. He's gonna have a statue probably. Yeah, he's not going anywhere ever.
It's probably the hardest sport to win, I think. Well, it's got to be one of the hardest sports to win. Win the March Madness tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only knock I could see in the Gonzaga coach is I was really impressed when his top assistant took the Arizona job and
I mean,
has
Top
been
agree with me.
he's been kind of outperforming Gonzaga lately. So it's like, hey, maybe he was the genius behind, you know, everything at Gonzaga the whole time. What was he
You hit
like?
it on
Was
the
he
head.
there when you were playing?
Yeah, he's the one who recruited me. Actually, you hit it on the head. He's the best recruiter you've ever seen. Sabonis, Zach Collins, Rui Hachimura. I mean, most of the pros, Zags in the NBA now, he recruited, you know, and he brought some of them with him. He's got some other guys coming in. You hit it on the head. But again, Tommy's choked the last couple of years, like early in the tourney. So we'll see. You know, I wouldn't say he's the you know brains behind the operation, but I definitely think you touched a really good point there.
Yeah, and I think you pointed out the other night that international was really what kind of got them started, right? Was recruiting international players.
Set him over the top. Yeah, Rui. I mean, we got Rui. Sabonis is an all-star. Should have been an all-star leading the league in triple doubles. You know, there's a lot of Zags in the NBA now, which is pretty great.
Hey, whatever happened to the dude that played with Gonzaga? He was like a Ukrainian or Russian dude, big, burly. He looked like an offensive lineman.
Oh,
He took
Shemek?
all the way to the
Shemek.
national championship.
Shemek, yeah, Karnowski. He's an assistant with the Zona Cats right now. He fizzled out in Europe. He's too big. Can't be that big to play basketball.
All right, well, we're at halftime right
from
now.
the table.
What was that, Ray?
I said he wouldn't back away from the table.
He really wouldn't. But he was one of the best passers I ever saw.
No, he's a good basketball player, just a big guy.
Too big. He was like balding, and yeah. He looked 60 out there. It was the battle.
We're at halftime right now of our game. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'd love to have you join us up here on Zoom. I got some more takes from earlier today I wanted us to get through while we're at halftime here today. I thought it was interesting, especially because last week, the last game we covered in the NBA was Thursday night. The Bucks looked awful against Memphis Grizzlies. They had no effort. They lost to a Memphis team that was depleted. John Morant didn't play. Jackson didn't play. Marcus Smart didn't play. Giannis and Dame both did play, and they lost. So Dame going into the weekend was my question for us all is, was he sending a message to the league, to his teammates, to himself, that he's still Dame? Because he sure didn't look like Dame on Thursday night. And there's been a lot of people talking shit about him. I think we even had someone saying they regret that Drew Holiday, they wish they had Holiday back instead of Dame on Thursday nights. And they made some really good points. But so Dame, hit the, won the 3-point contest, won the MVP of the All-Star game. Is Dame back to being Dame? Is he sending us a message here? And I appreciate you guys raising your hand. I want to get everyone's takes, but I want to play a quick clip because I thought this was so telling to me. I was about to say he is, and I feel like in the post-game interview, if you guys saw it, I'm going to play the clip here in a second. Kenny Smith literally asked him that question. He said, in my opinion, that's what Kenny Smith is asking him. I want to get your take on this clip too. He's asking him exactly what I'm saying. Are you sending a message to the league? Are you back to Dame? And Dame didn't get the question. To me, his answer is so narcissistic, so about himself and the All-Star game, and I feel like maybe he just misread the question. That can happen, but I thought it was going to be good for him, but hearing his answer to this question just made me feel like this guy is so self-absorbed and clueless to how bad his Milwaukee Bucks are playing. So let me play this clip for you guys, and I want to get your take on this clip and just overall what you think about Dame, what's up for him the second half of the season with this outing at the All-Star game. Because this clip, I'm having trouble getting over to it now. It made me think no, this is Dame. He just cares about himself. All right, so here we are.
For me, I'm looking at we understand the MVP. You understand the 3-point on the same weekend.
It's going too fast. I watch a lot of stuff at 2 speed to find the clips for you guys, and then I forget to turn it back.
I had a mental message that I'm still him.
Let's back it up a second here.
That
Kenny Smith's asking him what I just said, in my opinion.
You understand the 3-point on the same weekend. Is that a mental message that I'm still him?
It's definitely one of those things where people are gonna look at the game and say they don't play defense, and some people don't take the competition serious.
He's not answering the question.
It was just a break from the season and an opportunity for me to just be successful at something, just something to go after. And in the 3-point shootout, me and Bees was, talking trash back and forth, but I came in and I was like, I'm coming to win again. And, sometimes you just got to give yourself some type of edge. And it was a different thing from being with the team. It was just something else that I could do, to get myself going, even mentally. So, that was my mentality with that. And even tonight, I was just like, I'm going to come out. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm firing. And, we're going to see where it goes.
All right. We got hands up here from Blaze and Cameron. What's your take on that clip and on what Dame's going to do the second half of the year there, Blaze?
Yeah. First and foremost, I'm glad we didn't get him in Miami, because this right here is prime example. He is, like you said, is about himself. And I see that with this team is like, to me, it should be they shouldn't be so inconsistent, with everything. And I can tell it in his body language. It's more Dame. It's more Dame has to be and Shaq said it best, you're being too nice. He said, you're being too nice, you're not checking these other players, you're not doing it. And then, you have to be more aggressive than that. You really can't, you can't just be the way that you are. And Kenny asked him a straightforward question. There was no side jab. It was straightforward. And
he's just not thinking about team. He's like just all about himself in that.
There's something that I can do, for me to go out and dominate. This is not a team thing. It's separate. It just shows that, we dodged a bullet in Miami.
Well, Kenny asked him about him. Kenny didn't ask him about the team. He asked him, were you going back to being Dame time? He didn't ask him about the team. He said about Dame time.
Well, he said, was this sending a message? He goes, is this sending a message that you're back to being
sending a message about Dame, not about the Milwaukee Bucks?
But to remind them, because right now in Milwaukee, outside of that game-winning shot, we're not really like, oh, Dame. We're not seeing it. We're not seeing it.
But we always think that some people are underachieving. Milwaukee is in the third spot. The top two teams above them are just Boston is a real good basketball team. Even if Holiday would have still been there, they would have still been second behind Boston. So we're talking totally bad about Milwaukee and their top three. I mean, 1 week of good quality basketball, everybody's back talking about Milwaukee in the championship hunt. I can see if they drop to number 9 or number 8, but we're talking about the third best team in the East, and we're already burying them. And
hey,
how could you not want Dame Lillard in Miami?
Hey, look,
are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And you talking about you saying selfish. This guy played 10 years in Portland. And then never asked to be traded. Where's the selfishness at? Come on, guys.
It's not even been a full year. We still hurt until I'm over the hurt, which will be next season. Then we'll be like, oh, Dame is cool. Right now, he's selfish and I don't like him.
Rain,
sounds like a Miami fan.
He needed to answer that question saying, yeah, our team is gonna, I'm gonna show you Dame on the floor with my team for the second half of the season. The question was about the second half of the season.
Well, what I think he was saying was, I came to the All-Star break to polish up everything, to let the first half be the first half. I'm going into the All-Star game with a second half mentality. I'm going to shoot them out in the three-point contest. I'm going to come out the All-Star game. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to win the MVP. Now I'm set to have a great second half of the season, get Milwaukee deep in the playoff run, and give them Dame time.
What you just said is the perfect answer, but that's not what he said. You should be his spokesman.
That's right. Selfish, and I don't like him.
Because I don't. All right, let's hear from Cameron on this.
Yeah, I think Dame's a little surprised to hear some slander on his name, because let's not forget the Bucks were 30-13 before they hired Doc Rivers, number 2 in the East. And Dame has a big part of why they won 30 of those games. Another thing I have to he's averaging 24.6 per game, is the number 2 scoring option on his team. I'm sure every team would love to have their number 2 guy averaging almost 25. There's teams out there who are their leading scorers even averaging 25. So I don't really he's also, let's not forget, the starting point guard for the Eastern All-Stars. If he's having a bad season, why is he the starting point guard? Like, let's be honest. The reason why the Bucks aren't winning right now is because of Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers needs to figure it out, because right now they're looking like they're going to slip out of the playoffs. I don't think it has anything to do with Dame. Dame he knows his role to the team is offensive production. He's there to help close games out. And it'll also really help when they get Middleton back. And plus, after the All-Star break is when the season really starts to ramp up. I thought I was worried about that Grizzlies game, but I still expect the Bucks to turn around and clinch up that number 2 spot because their roster is too good to not be winning games and make a playoff run, especially a championship run.
Cameron, I would agree with what you said about Doc Rivers. I know he is well respected around the league, but that's the question I always ask when they said he got a new. I think, how does this man keep on getting jobs? Outside of winning a championship in Boston, what has this man did? I was like, what are we really doing here? Hell, I can go coach. Let me come out here and coach if that's the case. Like, how does he keep on getting jobs? That's the piece I don't understand. And I said it earlier, and I truly believe, especially that last week before the All-Star game, no one really cares because everybody's going into All-Star weekend, but they know after All-Star weekend, there's basically 30 games left. And now we got to put the pedal to the metal and we got to get our playoff positioning and go for this championship. But I do believe a lot of what's going on in Milwaukee right now is Doc Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all agree, Doc, he would have been better off being home for the weekend, getting his act together instead of being out there at the All-Star game. How he kind of lucked into that. I think my point was mostly that I feel like Kenny was teeing him up to talk about how his team's going to come out the second half, how he's going to lead his team. He said, you winning this 3-point and the All-Star game, is this a message to the league that, you're still Dame and you're still a force in the East? And to me, Dame just didn't, either he misunderstood or just wasn't thinking of his team in that moment. All right, we got a couple of hands up. We'll go to Vincent and then Matt and then Will. I want to hear from Will because he was calling for Doc Dumb for giving Dame the last shot. But let's go to Vincent.
I think he answered the question right because I don't think the All-Star game is where you really want to tout your talent anyways with how the All-Star weekend is looking. So I think him going on a little rant of how he's feeling because he hasn't played horrible, he just hasn't played great is kind of right. So, he just walks you where his mind is at in the moment. The weekend was good, but when they get back to real ball, they're going to be the real deal. I think they're just one of those older teams who kind of see the playoffs right now and they're doing good, but they're coasting. But when crunch time comes, they'll be there.
Good takes. All right. Houston, by the way, is coming out shooting. They just landed a 3 to go up 34-27. Our scoreboard is a little bit behind the TV here. This game looks like both teams are coming out scoring, and it's 34-29 now. A little more. They must have got a good pep talk at the half there. All right, let's continue with our takes on Dame. Let's see. Where did I say we were going next? Will?
I want to hear what Matt has to say, then I'll go.
All right. Oh, you're on mute still, Matt.
Sorry. Everything I've ever heard about Dame is, in terms of being a team guy, is he's the best team guy out there. And I think that's the vibe he gives off. I agree with what Rain was saying. I think the question was asked honestly more about himself, just trying to like, hey, are you trying to, I didn't see it as send a message. I saw it as, I'm going to come out here and try to make the most of this. I'm going to get myself back on track so we can make a run personally. And that's what we were saying. He's doing everything for the Bucks. His assists, he runs the one. He's not the go-to guy. His usage with the Trailblazers, we're all used to him getting 15 threes up a game, and it's not the case for this team. So everybody thinks he's down or whatever's going on. He's Dame. I think he seems like the most team guy. I don't take that as a selfish comment the way he kind of said that. I think he was just kind of looking at this situation as, I'm going to make the most of it.
Okay. I appreciate you guys' input. I may have been looking for trouble with Dame where there maybe isn't any, but let's hear from Will. Because Will, you were saying he played so bad on Thursday, they shouldn't have been giving him the last shot, even though he's game time Dame. They needed to go with the hot hand.
Yeah, what I said on Thursday, which I'm going to stand behind, in the regular season, when you were playing a really, really bad team, it's just hard to show up, That's what I was saying. It's hard to show up, especially against the really, really bad teams. You guys can argue with that, but I feel that way because you saw how hype Memphis was getting, you know? That was like their biggest game. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Dame because I could be way off on this, but even with like the Heat, when they got LeBron and Bosh and all them, it took them a few years to figure it out, right? I think it took them a few years. So it makes me wonder, like, is it going to take them a few years and are people going to be patient, you know? Because they got a lot of pieces, man, and it's hard to figure out everyone's part, you know?
Mm-hmm.
With the Heat, they needed to get Mario Chalmers, and then they got Ray Allen, and I don't know why he ever went to Ray Allen. I don't know why he ever went to the Heat. That was a weird thing how he went from Boston to the Heat. But I wonder if they're gonna have to get some secondary people to pull it out.
We're on a commercial in the game here. I think I'm going to pull up that Doc Rivers clip we played from the post game Thursday. So I see we got some pile on Doc Rivers people here.
Will, was it you saying that Bobby Portis should have took the last shot in the game Thursday? Who was that? Was that you?
Nah, that wasn't me.
Somebody was saying Bobby Portis should take the last shot, and I still can't get over that one.
Pretty sure that was Moses.
Oh, good.
He didn't want to show him. He didn't want to show himself after that take.
I mean, Bobby Portis is a good complimentary role player. He is not a go-to guy. This is not Georgia.
Yeah.
This is not Georgia.
No, I love Bobby Portis. He should not, no matter how hot he is, he should not be taking the last shot.
Right. Well, I'm sorry. This is not Arkansas.
So according to Doc in this press conference, his team, the players on his team, you guys tell me which category does Dame fall into? Because he says he's got two categories of players, those that can play defense that need to do better, and those that are learning to play defense. I'm like, can you insult an NBA player anymore, Doc? You guys hear this?
As far as how we want to play every night. And
yeah,
ease into the game. That's everybody. We need the guys that can play defense to be better defensively. And we need the guys who are learning to play defense to be solid in rotations and things like that.
That's so insulting.
You know, at the end of the game, we start playing hard and we got right back in the game. It just tells you where we're at all game. These are tough games, though, and we knew it.
Does that make the start to the second half more frustrating?
No, it doesn't do anything. It really doesn't. We get to gather ourselves, you know, get Chris back in a couple games, hopefully. I don't know when, and just build from there.
In that third quarter, they scored 37.
Yeah.
When you call timeout, 47 seconds in.
Yeah, let's notice where we're at. Like the first play, we gamble for the 50th time in the corner. Guy drives. We have to help, leads to a three. We come back in this on our set. Two guys forget what we're running. Then we miss the shot, and then nobody gets back. That's how we start out the third quarter. That tells you all you need to know about where our heads were.
Isn't that your job, Doc?
We had some guys here. We had some guys in Cabo.
We had some guys here and some guys in Cabo. Oh my gosh. I've never heard a coach blame his players so bad like that.
I've heard coaches blame themselves.
They probably was on Beale Street the night before in Milwaukee. That's probably why they wasn't playing no defense.
I don't know how I feel about a coach blaming his players. I feel like you got to take responsibility.
Well, I mean, the coach can blame the players. The coach is not out there taking one shot, not passing one ball, not doing any layups. All he's doing is relaying instructions. If the players are not taking heed to what he's, the play calls and what he's teaching or, what he's conveying to on the court, you only can blame the coach for so much, man. Like, a lot of people want to blame Shanahan for the Super Bowl.
No, I'm talking the coach.
If the football don't get the guy's shoe, the 49ers are Super Bowl champs, and we're saying Shanahan is one of the greatest.
I'm talking like taking responsibility, not people blaming the coach, but like the coach taking responsibility.
Yolanda, you seem like a big Doc Rivers fan. What's your take on that clip?
I was dissecting it in my head right now after listening to it. One of the things that, and don't get me wrong, I do like some of what Doc Rivers does, but he's just not that coach for me, if that makes sense. But one of the things that he says, that he always says, if you listen when he was Boston's coach, the Clippers coach, now he's over here Milwaukee's coach, if you listen to him, it always points to certain players versus his scheme. And I think that's where the piece of it comes in at for me. You are not getting these players to buy into your scheme. That is why you can't get over the hump. This is why you can't win that next championship. And this is why you only have the one from Boston, and you were lucky enough to get the one in Boston. He's very projectile to put things out on everything else versus self-reflection and looking in the mirror. And he is, to your point, Greg, very good for throwing people under the bus. That's why he couldn't be my coach, because we'd have to have a conversation, because we would have a situation.
Like every great coach in their press conference loses and it's like, we got to do better. And that starts with me. And then they go, there wasn't anything like that from Doc.
It never is.
He's saying players, we have players that are learning to play defense. These are NBA players. And then he said some of them were in Cabo already. The guys in the game, like their minds wasn't about going to Cabo. Like that's one of the most insulting press releases. I'm a Boston guy, so I thought Doc was great when he was with us, but
hey, those guys with that mentality of being already in Cabo, that's a real thing. I mean, ask Matt, he played on a high level. That's a real thing. The guys are going to the game and not even thinking about the game. They're already thinking about vacation. So that is a true statement. That's real. So when Doc say that, I mean, he's not throwing nobody under the bus. He's just being transparent.
These are the
And Greg, I will challenge you on this note too. I would also say when he said there's players out here still learning to play defense, I would agree with that statement as well, though, because there are a lot of NBA players who can't play defense or chooses not to play defense. So in our minds, they can't play defense.
Well, they choose not to play defense. That's their coaches. That's coaching and the GMs. I wouldn't have somebody on my team who's choosing not to play defense.
Well, how many minutes did Andre Jackson, Beauchamp, Chris Livingston, how many minutes did they get that game? Because those guys are 100% learning to play defense. So I didn't watch the game. I was just wondering if they got a lot of minutes, because he definitely could have been referring to them as well.
Are those like the one and done guys? They have a lot of young players on the team.
The question is it ever okay to blame other people in the media? You know, that's my kind of takeaway. Like, do you think it's okay for him to put the blame on other people other than himself?
I didn't. I would also like to hear what the question was prior to saying that. You know, if it was specific about, tell us about.
Yeah. You know, they didn't ask Doc about the play calls, or, when they did ask him about the timeout, but they didn't ask him about the play calls. They asked him about the players executing, people being all in and not on vacation. So it's hard for the player. It's hard I'm not a Doc fan, but it's hard for a coach to go out there and make a play. If the players are not all in mentally, what can he do? He can't go out there and lace them up.
Adrian, but Rain, have any comments like that all season?
Well, so Rain, who's at fault then for the Bucks being 3-10 and since Doc came on board?
I mean, you could start from the top, because the chemistry is not there. Dame came in, like Matt was saying. Dame used to be in the number one. With Milwaukee, he's a number two, but on any given night, he can be the third scorer if Middleton is playing well or Portis is hot. It's a different game for him. He used
their overall record is good. They're second in the East. So the chemistry was there all year. Since Doc has come in, they're 3-7. It's worse.
You can blame Doc, but like I said, Doc hadn't took one shot yet. He hadn't played defense yet. He hadn't did anything but just come in, and there's a good chance they're running all the stuff they ran with Adrian Griffin because all his assistants are there. So they try, Doc is not coming in with a brand new system. He's probably implementing the play here, trying to implement a defensive energy there. But they're running the same sets and stuff they did with Adrian Griffin.
But Rain, that's what I wanted to ask you on that point. Even if Doc just came in, and the record has definitely shifted since Doc came in, is it that the players are not buying into Doc's system, or they're not putting their belief behind Doc?
Well,
it might be
not,
Middleton thing too.
It's not Doc's system yet. Because Doc hasn't been in there long enough to implement a system. He's gonna come in and start and running the same stuff the other coaches is running, and then trying to put a little extra seasoning on top of it or a little more sugar on it. But he can't come in and revamp the whole offense, because that's like going through training camp again. They can't do that. All he can do is add on. Yeah. So,
but even running the other man's system, even running Andrew's system, they were still winning. They had, the second best, third best records on the East.
100%.
And even if that is the same system, now that Doc is coaching it, it's still a disconnect. So is their belief not in Doc?
Well, it is a disconnect. It is the other guy's system. Milwaukee they just running through a bad little stretch. Doc is a quality coach. He hadn't won but one championship, but when he won a championship in Boston, he was supposed to win. Those other teams he had, they still wasn't. They was talked about, but the Clippers wasn't going to win the championship. The Sixers wasn't going to win the championship. They just didn't have the players to win championships. So Doc took the rap for those teams. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know.
I think last year's Sixers team, I really believe the Clippers could have contended for a championship.
And last year's Sixers team was right there. That was Embiid's year last year. They were right there.
Well, he had the Clippers there, but they wasn't a championship team. And like I said, last year Philly couldn't beat Boston. Philly couldn't beat Milwaukee last year, so they was going to be third fiddle again. I mean, yeah, Embiid was the MVP. That was regular season, but when the playoffs and those matchups come about, they just didn't match up well against the top two teams, and Doc couldn't go out there and put on them old tidy shorts from Atlanta Hawk days and do anything.
Philly was up 2-1 on Boston last year, and Doc couldn't close them out. Let's hear from David has his hand up.
Yeah, they were actually up 3-2. I thought, if I remember correctly, they were just a few minutes away from clinching in Game 6. But I do have a question because Yolanda brought up a good point talking about them running Adrian Griffin's system. Just general question. Say what you will about them, firing Budenholzer and then bringing in Griffin. And now they fired Griffin in the middle of the season, and we're having this discussion because it's so far not working out. 3 wins out of 10 games. Do y'all believe that the mistake was firing first-year coach in the middle of the season? They would have been better off waiting till the end of the season. We see it so many times that these teams will fire something mid-season and nothing really happens. It's more often to keep them afloat. But I really think this was a championship contending team. So my question again, do y'all think it was a good idea to fire mid-season and bring Doc in, or would they have been better off waiting until the end of the season?
All right, we'll go to Matt and then Will on any of these topics.
Kind of what I was saying. Exactly your point, Dave. I think there's something going on there that we obviously don't know about. Like, they got rid of Adrian. We don't know why. They're winning games, but they got rid of Adrian. So there was obviously something going on before that Doc came into. So we're sitting here saying all this about Doc, but they got rid of Adrian for a reason, and they were winning games. So again, I think it's unfair to put all this on Doc when we literally have no idea what the situation is in Milwaukee. We don't know what as Rain said, the chemistry. We don't know any of the details about this. So we're just sitting here saying nobody's buying into Doc when there was problems regardless. They wouldn't have got rid of Adrian if everything was copacetic, everybody was happy or winning there was something going on. So that's
they got rid of Adrian hoping that Doc would come in and turn around the defense, because that was their big their big weakness in the year. They just couldn't defend. And while, yeah, Doc's come in and improved the defense, I don't think the team's really improved as a whole.
I don't think the guys are buying into the defense. That's the statement Doc said. Some guys are learning how to play defense because you got to buy in. Defensively, you got to buy in. If offensively, you can get in your spots and get a couple of buckets here, but defensively, it's every possession buying in and stopping somebody.
Yeah, which is exactly what Yolanda was saying, that they're not buying into the Doc's system as of yet.
Well, let me ask this because Matt brought up a good point. We don't know what was going on in the locker room, but let's just, for the sake of conversation, let's assume there was nothing going on, and it was just they thought maybe firing Griffin and bringing in Doc would lead them to a championship. If with that assumption, would you still have made that move, or would you have waited until the end of the year?
No, I would have never hired Doc Rivers with his track record. No way.
See, I think they should have hired Doc in the offseason. I think it's a very desperate move to make a change, bringing in a coach in the middle of the year from outside your organization. I think we've talked before about how I couldn't remember that happening at all till you.
The Cavs did it with LeBron and Kyrie. They fired David Blatt when they won the top seeds and brought in Tyronn Lue.
He wasn't on the staff already. They brought him in externally.
He was on the staff. I think that was the only time I can think of that making a fire mid-season that the team was able to go on in any sport. The team was able to go on and win a championship. I can think of times where they went to championship games, but actually winning it. I think that's the only thing that I could think of.
Yeah, you reminded us of the D'Antoni on the Lakers, right?
And that was an awful season. That was the will Dwight come back season. Will Dwight not come back? What's going on with Dwight? Is his back hurt? Him and Kobe Bryant hate each other. That was a miserable season to be a Lakers fan.
Yeah, it's a desperate move to bring an outside coach in the middle of the year. I think Alvin in the chat on YouTube was saying there must be some external off-the-court drama that we don't know about with Adrian Griffin.
You guys hit it on the head. NBA coaches are managers. Like you said, a CEO, most of them are making less than their, worst player. They're there literally to just manage personalities. Granted, don't get me wrong, a lot of them are making game time decisions. Ty Lue's amazing at making adjustments in the game. There are a lot of coaches out there doing that, but big role is just keeping these personalities in check, keeping everybody happy. Even at the level I played at, what my coach did was I'm a 1-2. I ran the offense. I had to literally feed guys to keep them happy at certain moments when they hadn't got touches, because we knew they'd fall off the rails if they didn't. Like, there's just certain things. That's what NBA coaches are doing. They got to keep everyone happy. That's why I love Adrian Griffin. I don't know enough about what this situation was like. So
yeah, I liked Griffin too. But on a side note, and I will leave you gentlemen with this. Really? At least it took him off of commentating the games on ESPN. So that was a win.
Yes, I agree 100%. Now we just need to get Doris out.
Yes, exactly. So
Doris
that was
is the
win.
GOAT.
Bring back Mark Jackson, bring back Van Gundy, whatever. But that was a win for us because at least it took him from the commentating table. So yay for that.
Finally, Iowa State is getting to the line. These are their 5th and 6th free throws, first ones of the half. With how physical Houston is playing, I'm kind of surprised they've only got 6 free throws.
Yeah, they've cut it to 4 now. Does anybody have a take on this game? Let's check in on the box score here.
I think turnovers too are kind of the difference in this game. Iowa State's turning it over, and they're still only down 4?
Yeah, it looks like Sharp is dominating. He's got 14. Sharp and Sheed has 12. David, what do you got on this game?
Yeah, so it's actually, I have a question for Yolanda, not necessarily the game. But Yolanda, did you watch the 3-point contest between Steph and Sabrina on Saturday?
It's not a foul.
Oh, did she just leave?
Yeah, I think she said
Sabrina cleans up well. Have you seen her photos?
So my question wasn't, and y'all feel free to answer, but I wanted the female perspective. So a lot of people were going in on Kenny Smith after the shootout, saying that he was being very misogynistic. And honestly, like, My opinion was I thought Sabrina should have shot from her own 3-point line also, because I think that would have been more fair because that's what she's used to. But people were saying that Kenny Smith was misogynistic for saying that.
She wanted to shoot the deep three too. That's where they were gonna let her shoot from the WNBA three, but she said that she wanted to shoot from the NBA range.
So yeah, I didn't know that. And that makes sense. I just in my head I was thinking, oh, she'll shoot the WNBA ball, she'll shoot from the WNBA 3-point line, and it would make sense. But that makes sense as well.
But if it's a competition and a challenge, you agree to shoot from a line. I mean, it's not a competition if Steph is shooting from 26 and she's shooting from 22. I mean,
she used she used the girl's ball.
I know that was perfect. I thought that was cool, but it's what's the competition? If I'm gonna give you a run a 40-yard dash and give you a 10-yard head start, I mean, that ain't no competition. You're competing. They decided on the line to compete from. They let her shoot with the ball, but then the first thing people would say is, "Oh, well, she's a woman, he's a man." But I mean, it's a challenge. You take the challenge. The challenge doesn't discriminate against female or male. It's the challenge.
Yeah, she did awesome. She scored 26 points. That would have got her in the finals for the regular contest.
I mean, how many of those guys would be Steph Curry? I mean, come on, we expected her to win.
Yeah, she scored enough, like Cameron said, to make the finals if she was in the men's 3-point contest. So, I don't know why Kenny Smith was making that take.
I'd watch if they were talking about having Steph and Dame team up against Sabrina and Caitlin Clark. Sign me up. I'm interested in seeing those four shoot the ball in a competition.
Yeah, do you guys think that should be the main event? They should close with that. It's more exciting than the dunk contest.
They could fix the dunk contest and then add the 1v1 tournament. That's all I think. I love the 3-point competition. Yeah. That's exciting every year.
I think the 3-point competition.
One thing about the All-Star break is, earlier on we were talking about the All-Star game. How do we make it better? Well, the All-Star game has been similar for the last 20, 25, 30 years. The guys are just getting out there, playing open run. We know these guys make a ton of money. Just like the middle the end game tournament, you're going to have to put some incentives on the All-Star game to make these guys play harder. They're not just going to go out there and give you a clean, crisp, competitive game for a free game. If they had some money on the line, the guys will play hard.
I saw a clip today. It was Kobe Bryant in an interview saying these guys will play harder in a pickup game in UCLA than the All-Star game. And that's true. I watch the pickup games of these guys all the time, running games there in Vegas and UCLA, and they play hard. They play way harder than they do on the All-Star weekend.
That's midsummer though. Like you said, I mean, a lot of these guys are trying to make, I think the players, I think Yolanda actually hit it on the head. They got playoff runs to make. You cannot get hurt no matter what, you cannot get hurt at the All-Star game. And that's just, and Greg, you made a good point. Sometimes people do tend to get hurt when they're just kind of like messing around, but you can't risk it. You can't risk it. So I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they incentivize these guys or make it worthwhile, but it is what it is. I don't see it changing because these guys cannot get hurt if they're about to.
Absolutely, Matt. I agree, Matt. Like I said, the All-Star game has been the same for the last 30 years. It's a pickup game, a bunch of dunks, bunch of layups. It only get competitive in the last 4 to 6 minutes if the game is close.
If it's tight, right? Yeah.
Right.
A few years ago, it was kind of fun. I don't know if they did the Elam ending or what they did, but I remember a few years ago, it might have been Zion's first one where all the best players were on the floor at the end. They're playing hard. I don't know what it was.
That was after Kobe died.
Was it? They did. I thought it was the first time they did it for charity too, maybe. And I'm not sure, but it had some excitement to it. That was one. And
you lay on there just like me.
Will, what do you got on this?
I'm not sure if you guys are going to agree, but I actually like watching stuff with the Pro Bowl now. Like, I love the dodgeball tournament. I think getting a dodgeball tournament could be crazy in basketball. That'd be a lot of fun, I think. But I wonder what it would look like if they did it after the season. And that might be crazy. I don't know. Like, would that help at all if it was after the season? Do you think they would care more, or that just like change things too much? I know, like for the Pro Bowl, they do it after, and I don't know if people like that or they, yeah. What are your guys' thoughts on maybe doing it after the season?
I see where you're going with that, but I think that week of rest that a lot of the players
Yeah,
get
that's a good
is
point.
crucial for getting to that finish line, getting through the playoffs. They just need that week of rest. Yes, it would be cool after the end of the season, and maybe they would play a little bit more competitively. But then, what do you do about that week that normally the All-Star break would take place?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the Pro Bowl is not particularly competitive either. It's just the nature of all-star games, I think. They're not, I don't know why anyone's expecting them to be playing their hardest
They
in.
were going all out in the dodgeball and the tug of war. They were all they were hanging on like no one's business in the tug of war. But yeah.
Anybody got a take on our game here? Let's check back in. It's 53-47.
Sweating, man, because we were looking really good to start the game, and sure enough, Iowa State's just staying within striking distance.
Yeah,
Is this a lot of points for Iowa? Is this a lot of points for Houston to give up or not really?
I would say anything over 60 would be considered a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, Houston looks like a two-man show on offense. That's a little worrisome for me picking them going into March Madness. Like to see a little more balance.
I'd have to see. It all depends on who's in their bracket. At the end of the day, any team can take out any team when it comes to that. But honestly, Elite Eight at the absolute. If they make it to the Elite Eight, I'm happy. Anything better than that is just a cherry on top.
Who do you not want to see?
I don't know. I haven't followed enough college basketball this year. But I would say anybody that can force us to shoot the ball, won't let us penetrate, and anybody with a defense like that makes us jack up threes. That's going to be the team that'll kill us.
Yeah, and March Madness is coming up. It'll be it's going to be fun. One of the things I tend to look for in teams is depth. I feel like they have to play their games, on quick turnaround, usually Thursday, Saturday, or Friday, Sunday. And they haven't really played like that all year. And so if you have depth, your guys don't get tired. I think that's a big reason teams get knocked out in on the second part of the weekend. So that's what I was saying about seeing a team with two guys is something to look at. Obviously, you got to see who they match up with. And
That team that beat Purdue and like made a run either last year or the year before, they played like 11 people. Forget their name. They were some mid-major.
Yeah, the 16 seed last year.
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's, yeah. They played a lot of guys. Where'd that coach go?
I think he had Providence.
Yeah, he parlayed that into another job. He got that big old raise.
Oh,
He went to Providence as a collegiate player.
He's at Seton Hall.
Seton Hall, I'm sorry. You're
Yeah.
right. He went to Seton Hall. He was actually in the McDonald All-American game with Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
I got a question for everyone here. Let's be honest. No fibbing. How many of y'all actually got 3 out of the 4 Final Four teams last year? Did anybody get the national champion? How'd y'all do with the bracket last year?
I had Kentucky winning it.
I think I had Kentucky as well. My bracket just fell out the sky.
Yeah, last year was bad. I picked Houston and Bama to win it all, and neither one of them made it to that next weekend.
I think Texas was my second. Texas was up there too.
Last year they had a lot of the top seeds were football schools. So, you know, it was prime for a team like UConn to win the national championship at what they were 5 seed.
Yeah.
It was all Florida last year.
Yeah.
And the Heat also made the finals. It was like living in Florida. Suddenly we were the hotbed for hoops.
Then y'all had the Panthers too make it to the NHL final.
Yeah.
The Heat series was crazy. I thought the Celtics were going to make the greatest comeback in NBA history, being down 3-0.
Yeah, it seemed like it. After game 6, I didn't think the Heat could come back from that last second Derek White buzzer beater, but they did.
Yeah, I didn't think they would either, but they ended up getting blown out.
Yeah. Yeah, you got those growing pains. That's what it takes to win a championship. That's why I don't think you can count on Minnesota or OKC. Like they got to go through those playoff growing pains before they can really make a run at a title.
OKC was a playing team last year, though, right? And I think Minnesota made it to the second round, or
Yeah, they won a round, I think.
No, I don't think they Minnesota played Denver in the first round last year, I'm pretty sure.
Was it? Well, I mean, they both made the playoffs, so
They won their play. The Minnesota won the play-in game, but played Denver last year in the first round.
So I think that'll hold true against Oklahoma, but Minnesota maybe not so much.
Yeah, I don't see Minnesota even winning a first round playoff game this year.
That West is stacked. Oh man, that West has always been stacked. But this year it's a gauntlet.
Yeah, I honestly thought the Western All-Stars were going to come out and smack the East team. I saw a picture of them and I was like, damn, that team is loaded. How do you even beat that team? There's so many stars. And the East just came out and just laid a thud on them. It was crazy.
Yeah, the East had more younger guys that was excited to be in the All-Star game, with the West guys like, we've been here, we've done that, we can take a weekend off.
Yeah, they got one win against the Nuggets, Greg. You're right. They won one game against them.
Injury alert in Houston. Sharp maybe twisted his ankle, stepped on somebody. See on the replay, but that's not good for us. He's one of our best shooters. I would say he is our best shooter.
Yeah, he's leading them in scoring tonight right now. Our second leading scorer, yeah.
That'll be interesting to keep an eye out for these last 5.5 minutes.
All right, yeah. 5:42 to go. We just made that.
Friars in foul trouble. Juwan Roberts in foul trouble. Oof. Iowa's already in the bonus.
Oof.
This is going to go down to the wire, I'm telling you.
That big guy is killing them inside. What has he got? 8 or 9 rebounds now? King?
Yeah,
Houston is a rebounding team, but I'm pretty sure Iowa's beating them on the boards tonight. Let me see, what are the stats?
Or Jones. Just had a nice tip in.
Yeah, they got 38 rebounds to Houston's 25.
Yeah, it helps when our best guy on the boards has been on the bench for majority of this half.
He has foul trouble?
Yeah, Roberts already has 4.
This guy Jones just picked up his 4th foul now too, so there's foul trouble going both ways.
Now, I'm excited for that tournament next month. Those palms get a little bit sweatier at the free throw line.
Are the Cougars the only team in town that Houston has?
I mean, they're the only team worth watching. We've got Sam Houston State and the Rice Owls, but they're just kind of there.
Well, that was a nice play there. See if you guys can hear this. We'll try it once before.
Other thing with Roberts, he's sneaky. There's some times where you'll see he's our leading scorer for the game.
Now they're going into this stall.
That's the shot you want him to shoot. Jack it up. Shed's the man, but sometimes he can be a crash dummy.
Is he a transfer portal guy, or where'd he come from?
He's been with us the last 2-3 years. I don't know if he started here. He's good. He's probably our best defender. But towards the end of the game, he can kind of pull that Russell Westbrook. You know, I'm gonna take the shot here, or I'm gonna fumble the ball on a dribble.
Yeah.
He played during the Final Four team a little bit.
Was he on the Final Four team?
He was, and he played. Yeah.
I don't remember him on the Final Four team, but I remember we went to the Elite Eight, and he was like all region or whatever it was that year, and then everyone else was Villanova.
Yeah, it's worked out great having a Houston guy on our first college game.
Yeah.
Giving us all the inside scoop. We got to try to get someone from the hometown every time we do a game. The NBA picks up again on Thursday, so we'll be back to NBA on Thursday. I'm just looking at what we got for tomorrow here since it's a timeout on our game. We got Syracuse and NC State as a 7 o'clock game. Or Baylor and BU as a 9 o'clock game. I feel like a 9 o'clock game is supposed to go 2 hours and be over by now. When did college games start taking 2.5 hours?
Vincent, you say you're still in Houston?
Yeah, I'm down in Siena.
And where?
Siena. It's Missouri City, like right underneath Pearland.
You're in the SWAT.
Nah. SWAT is southwest of Leaf. So Siena, kind of like I'm right in between Sugar Land and Pearland.
Okay.
Wait, what part are you from?
I'm up here in Spring.
Spring? Oh yeah, so yeah, we're like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 45 minutes away from each other. I was actually up there today. What is it? 1960?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was up there today.
What are you doing now? Like post NFL, like post football. You try to do like UFL, XFL, whatever it is, or
Oh no, yeah, exactly. Because this past season I finished with the Colts in the preseason. Finished on a hamstring tear, so rehab that. And I think I might get a contract here with the UFL, get some good film out there, and try to get back on some teams heading into my 7th year. So that's what I'm looking forward to right now. Actually, it starts up week from now, so I'm looking forward to that.
I didn't even realize it when you said like, oh yeah, I played that, and I saw, I recognize that name because you had a touchdown against the Eagles, if I remember correctly. It was like a comeback, like end of the game, something like that. It was like 2018, 2019, and you also had one game. It was a preseason game. I think Joe Webb was playing quarterback, where you balled out. But I remember when you said, "Oh yeah, I played for the Texans." I said, I remember that name.
Yeah, that game was special because rest his soul, Demaryius Thomas actually pre-game, he's like, "You're gonna have a big play today," and he was playing. He tore his Achilles. I get in, make a big play. Thought it was a game winner till Nick Foles drives the ball all the way downfield. They get a field goal. But that was a special season for me being a rookie. But yeah, I got like a million stories I could talk about from 2018, 2019, 2020 years.
Crazy. Did you
Yeah,
like
that's some
playing
good stuff.
for Butch and O'Brien?
Say again?
Did you like playing for OB?
Oh man, OB, he's one of a kind, for the good and the bad. I always say I thought he was a good OC. I mean, for that being the first place I went to, like everything was very organized. Everybody knew the hots. Everybody knew exactly what was supposed to do in all situations. But he wasn't a good head coach. He wanted to be like Bill Belichick. And when he got all that power, he had no checks and balances, and that's when things started going downhill. So for me, it was my second year when things got real weird. And in hindsight, it's crazy how it all happened. But in a moment, it was just happening very slowly but surely.
Were you here when they made him the GM?
Yeah, so it was my rookie season. We went 11-5 with Brian Gaines as our GM, and that was his first year being GM. Went
Y'all
11
lost
and
to
5.
Colts in the first round.
Yep, lost
Yeah.
to Andrew in the first round. Went 11-5 with Brian Gaines as our GM. Then they fired him. So that should have let you know.
That's when he started putting all his chips in the center of the table. Traded for Laramie Tunsil, got rid of Clowney.
Well, actually, I'll back it up. I think it was actually the original owner dying. That's when all of this stuff happened because his son didn't know what to do. He just listened to O'Brien and let O'Brien take over, and he took over.
Oof, that was a nice read.
I don't know. I think the Cougs might have this one.
Yeah, they're about one more hoop away from putting it
So
away.
I got a wild take for the NBA, guys. I think, well, one, I don't think any Eastern team is going to win the finals, but I think the Celtics will choke it. And I know you don't want to hear this, Greg, but I think the Celtics will choke it another year. One ring in 36 years. They just remind me a lot of the Cowboys, a team that actually I think they're way better than the Cowboys. They should be winning. What scares me about the Celtics is sometimes they get into 6-7 game round or 6-7 game series against a team that they should not be having a 7 game series against.
You gotta consider
Tatum's
them.
got to prove that he can dominate a series.
Jaylen Brown's got to learn to dribble with his left.
Because last year the Hawks took them to 6 in the first round. Like, what the heck are the Hawks doing? Taking the second seeded Celtics to 6 in the first round.
What's your biggest fear with him, Greg?
Biggest fear?
It's got to be health.
Celtics.
It's got to be health. I think either you got to have Holiday and Porzingis healthy to make a deep run.
Yeah, Porzingis is a big injury risk. He's never stayed healthy. He's never really played much in the playoffs. Right, it's another level of banging on your body, I imagine. So I think, and if Porzingis goes down, they're back to playing Al Horford, who's just undersized to begin with, against Giannis and Jokic. Because I'm pretty sure it'll be Jokic and Denver coming out of the West if I was betting. And it wouldn't surprise me. I'll be obviously rooting for Boston, but it wouldn't surprise me for Tatum to come up short and for Denver to win that. Jokic in the end, I think he can dominate Porzingis.
Is he more of a power forward or center?
Porzingis, I mean, he shoots threes. It's hard to define that these days.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, he's a stretch big.
There's really only, there's not a lot of centers. I don't think.
Yeah, Jokic probably weighs a lot more than him, so he'll be able to push him around.
What is Bam, Vincent? That guy's always interesting to me. Is he more of a power forward or center?
A center.
Center? Okay.
Athletic, a freaky athletic center.
He's like 6'8" though, isn't he?
No, he's 6'10", 6'9" or 6'10", I believe.
Oh, he's that top. Okay. Yeah, that could be a center.
Well, Iowa State's going to the trap with 2 minutes to go. They got the ball back. They got a turnover on, I guess. Wasn't sure what happened without the volume on there. Do not need a 3 here. They look like they are Passing around outside for three. That's not a good shot.
And that's the main reason why I watch March Madness, is because I know every season some crazy comeback happens, like little 2-minute stretch or a deep like half court buzzer beat, like 3/4. That's like the main reason why I'm trying to see something amazing, and it happens once every tournament. Seems like.
Oh, it happens a lot. I mean, last year it was just the first game of the tournament last year was the Virginia game that they lost, where like their point guard, who's like the all-time winningest player in the history of Virginia.
Yeah, I remember
up
that.
For grabs, and the guy catches it and shoots a three, and they're knocked out. That's got to be like heartbreaking to like let your team down like that in your senior year.
I don't think the best team wins it that often, do they?
You ever see a player on the just playing, you're just like, he has such a punchable face, you just want to like, you just can't help but think, oh my God, this guy makes me just want to punch him in the face, and he makes a stupid decision after stupid decision. You're like, oh my God, just ruined my bracket, and you have a punchable face. Don't need to talk to me about Virginia.
Yeah, they've broken hearts a lot now, I think.
They were traded off for that one championship, though, I think. They won it once.
Which they won on a bad call. If you remember, the guy was bringing the ball up, Virginia player, dribbled it off the back of his calf, picked it up with two hands and started a new dribble right at the very end of that game on the last
In
shot.
the final four of the championship.
That should have been a double dribble.
They got lucky in the final four, too, I think. Or are you talking about that one in the championship?
Yeah, I'm not 100%. I think it was in the championship game, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that year they played an Auburn team where their best player had just like tore his ACL or blew out his Achilles, so had a little bit of luck getting into the championship game. But yeah, there was a really controversial call. Can't remember what exactly it was. I think what you were talking about, Greg.
Yeah, where he dribbled it off the back of his leg.
Something like that. Yeah, that was one of the best championship games in a while.
Yeah, people also didn't like the foul that ended the game. I thought it was a foul. I thought Kyle Guy got fouled in the corner, hit his lower half of his body and midway through his shot, gave him no landing room. But yeah, that was Texas Tech, right? Texas Tech was in the championship that year.
Yeah, Texas Tech. Yep.
Yeah, it was against Auburn in the Final Four. That was it.
My favorite Final Four championship game memory is I was living in San Antonio for a few years, and it was actually the year that Nova and North Carolina played here in Houston. I was trying to go, I couldn't, had work stuff, but so I was watching the game. I didn't have cable, so I was watching the game on the March Madness app, and it kept telling you like 20 minutes until the app expires, 10 minutes until the app expires. So going all the way down to the wire, UNC goes down there and hits the 3-pointer. I'm like going crazy, like and then it died, so I didn't get to see the last play. So I'm trying to like go online, trying to find some sort of streaming service. By the time I get it, it's like craziest ending of all time, and Nova won on that 3-pointer. I was like, you gotta be shitting me.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good buzzer beaters in the finals like that. Of course, Gonzaga just had the one they won, right? They threw one in against UCLA just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was a really good game. I was texting my dad after that game saying, I think that's the greatest game I've ever witnessed. It was totally like game bias. I've seen so many great games, but that one was good, especially I think Gonzaga was undefeated, right? They were undefeated, and UCLA was this team that had almost got knocked out in the first four in. They were down like 8, I think, with like 5 minutes left to go. Kind of like the Miami Heat last year. They were down in the play-in game, made a comeback and make this ultimate run to the finals. But yeah, that's what's crazy. UCLA, they shouldn't have been there and made a crazy run. Jaime Jaquez, that Kentucky transfer. That was a fun squad to watch.
Yeah, and then Gonzaga blew it against Baylor. They got killed in the title game.
Yeah, that one shocked me.
Yeah, that one shocked me too. I was hyping Gonzaga up so much that year, especially that tournament. I was telling all my buddies to pick Gonzaga in the bracket. But that's the beauty of March Madness.
Good thing Matt's not here for this conversation.
Well, Gonzaga got their revenge last year. They beat UCLA at the buzzer. Or actually, no, UCLA. Actually, was the year after that. They've played almost every year now, right? Gonzaga and UCLA.
There's a hockey game that ended 10-8. That's crazy. 10-8. That's not hockey is like 4 or 5 goals, right?
Yeah, that is pretty high.
10-8.
Well, you said you're an Ohio State guy, right?
So my thing, man, is college basketball. That's the one sport I just like literally pick a team each year. every other team I have a team. Every other sport I have a team I like. College basketball, man, I'm like, I don't know. It was South Carolina, but then I realized they sucked. So
they're ranked this year, you know. I thought maybe you knew something about them when you mentioned them before.
they've fallen apart this week. I'm done with them. I can change teams like every day. But I gotta find, I don't know, who's like a likable team.
I like UNC because one of the only teams where I know any of the players. They have UNC has 2 guys back from that Final Four run 2 years ago.
I love their coach too. That coach is like a really strong Christian, and he seems like a really good guy.
I didn't know that. I don't know that much about him.
He's like the type of dude like that Harbaugh guy who just like quotes Bible passages like all day.
Oh, I would like that.
Like in the middle of the media.
Here's this play where let's end with this because they're up 10 now. Looking like they got it in hand. We'll end with this as our last play of the game here.
Heard from Gene Steratore about this one earlier in the closing seconds. Gene. Yeah, Jim. As Todd Jerome is bringing the ball up the court, he accidentally bumps the ball, as we can see, off of his back foot. Now it's not touched the defender. He then repossesses this ball with both hands. That ends his dribble. Then he makes the decision to dribble again, which by rule is a double dribble. It's a tough judgment play, you know. And if Auburn touches the ball at all, it's a reset.
It's not a judgment play. He just missed it.
Fix is
Could they
in.
reverse it or no?
Fix is in.
Violation.
Could they reverse
that, Will?
or no?
What'd you say, Will?
You know, I
Could
think
they reverse it?
Could they reverse it?
Yeah.
No, I
That's
don't.
what
I mean,
down to,
they didn't pick up on it till the game went on to end right away.
Okay. Gotcha.
You think the fix
I think
was in
refs
for
should be
Virginia?
I think refs should be allowed to talk to the media too after games. You know how players, reporters get their thoughts and questions on particular plays and moments that happen in the game. I think refs should get the same treatment. Like, what did you see right here? Why didn't you blow your whistle? Or why did you blow your whistle?
I'll leave you guys on a crazy hot take. I hate how the losing team after every game has to go talk to the press. I think it's like the worst thing ever. Like, I don't like it at all. Like, yeah, I would be one of those guys who would just like get so frustrated, especially after a big game. I hate how you have to talk to the press, but that's part of college. That's part of the sport, I know, but I don't like it.
Yeah, and you don't want, in my opinion, as a referee, you don't want the refs like to be household names. Like we always say, a great game's when nobody notices us. You know, so to have us like explaining things after the game, you know, it's I always, one of my, you know, favorite lines I'll give a coach in the middle of a game is like, you know, we're gonna make as many calls right as your team shoots right. You know, what are you guys gonna shoot 50% tonight? Right? You don't make every shot, we don't make every call right. It's things are moving quick out there. All right, this has been awesome, man. We went to what, after 11 tonight. Great job, good crowd. You can see we're picking up some steam, some more people coming on. Excited to see what the views were. Doing it in 2 clips like this, I think, is really helping. And our main game plan, if anybody has an idea, is we got to tap into the live NBA audience. Like they're getting that channel. I showed you guys this channel, right? BL Talks. Oh, and by the way, if everybody could shoot me a text just so I have you at the top of my inbox that you were here. I want to like start having a better system of keeping track of who's here. So just shoot me a text so I make sure I have everyone saved as contacts. But yeah, like the big player, not subscriptions. Here it is. This guy, BL Football Talks, is like in Malaysia or something, but he broadcasts NBA games. Yeah, here he's got his schedule coming up. And he gets like 500 viewers a night. And all he does is like play music and show the box score.
One thing I do for my coaching program, man, is I do Instagram reels. And I feel like if you kind of post a few Instagram reels, just talking about what you're doing, like
Yeah.
things could take off, man.
Yeah, that's definitely phase 2 and
Okay.
stuff want to start getting into.
Yeah.
But like if we could scoop up this traffic, that would be great. You can do 4 live streams at a time, and he does 4 games every night. Ultimately, we'll have 4 with like one of you guys running each of these as well. But we got to start with scooping up his traffic. Again, all he does is broadcast the game, and granted, he has 190,000 subscribers. But I would think that people come here, like if you're looking for the game, you come here, you type in the game, like you go to home. Like let's just go to home. Like if you want to watch the game, you type in what game you're looking for. I don't know, like Boston Celtics, and then you go over to live. And then you look for, is my game here, right? And like we want to show up in this search and have people that normally are going to his channel, which just plays EDM music, and has 300 or 500 people in it every night. We want to get some of them coming over to our show. But Friday's numbers were really good. We were up at over, I think, 260 views. That was like double what we've been doing. And that's the way these things supposedly go. It takes doubles every week. But great seeing you guys. Look forward to more shows, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah, have a good night, y'all.
Have a good one. And my gambling bet finally hit 9.5. Iowa State covered.
There you go, dude. There you go, cracking that code.
Oh, that was a nail burner by the spread, actually.